freaking out. I didn't know what to do.
Kind of going through a traumatic event because his girlfriend's missing. If he hadn't called it in, we wouldn't have known.
I'm thinking either some maniac's gotten her.
This guy said, if he is not taking care of you good, I'll take you home.
Okay. So you're saying she left with someone?
It was the guy who she was talking to.
If there is any possibility of her surviving, it's dwindling.
If you're lying to me, I need to find out exactly what you're lying to me about. You're the last person that's seen her alive. Hands down.
They're not going to be able to get a conviction without the confession.
Carlsbad 911, what is your emergency?
Yes, my girlfriend left last night and she hasn't made it back to the hotel.
What is your name?
It's Robert Early. I mean, I've talked to her parents, to her ex-husband. Nobody's heard from her, and she was pretty intoxicated.
And where are you at?
The Stevens Inn.
Let me go ahead and have an officer come see you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I can tell you this, it's everything as far as the outcome of this case. I mean, it affected all of us. I'm the one that got the initial missing person report. I briefed our detectives and investigators.
He tells us Robert Early's living down here right now. He's working in the oil field, and his girlfriend's from Dallas. She's a school teacher. She came down to visit him for the weekend.
Emily and Robert, they grew up in the same small little area. She did not know him in high school, but they went to the same high school. He was older than her, so they were a couple of years apart. When Emily first met Robert, she had added him on Facebook. They had mutual friends in common, and she thought he was somebody else. And they went to a bonfire party, and they met, and there was an instant attraction. Emily is one of the most dynamic people you will ever meet. She's girly, but she can do the guy stuff. She can do the sports. She can do your makeup. Emily is a little bit of everything.
Emily called me on Saturday from Carlsbad. She sounded really happy, like she was having a nice time. On Sunday morning, when we got out of church, I had a text from Robert, and it just said, "This is Robert, call me." And so I immediately called him, and he said, "Emily's missing." I said to Steve, "Let's just go out there and see," because we were so worried we didn't know what was going on. Emily has 2 daughters. They were here for that weekend. So we all drove to Carlsbad.
8-hour drive. I'm thinking either some maniac's gotten her, she's been hit by a car and in a hospital and no ID, she's chained up somewhere, with the gangs and the cartels along the border.
Carlsbad's probably 25 to 30,000 people. At the time during this incident, there was probably, I would say, 40,000 people, more than that, due to the oil and gas industry.
During an oil boom, you're bringing in a lot of people that have been convicted of felonies and various crimes because the oil field isn't too discriminate when they're hiring. So your crime levels react to that. You have more burglaries, more rapes, and more homicides.
As soon as we were done with the briefing part of it, myself, Sergeant Rennie, and Sergeant Naylor drove over to the Stevens Inn.
Initially went to the office and get them to start pulling surveillance. And then we went over to room 402, which is where Robert Early was staying. Emily's clothing was in the room. Her cell phone was in the room. Her vehicle was there. Her purse was in the vehicle. We spoke with Robert Early briefly, and he was very cooperative. We asked him if he'd come down to the station with us and talk to us so we could get more details, and he agreed.
I met with Emily's parents. They came to the police department with Emily's 2 daughters. I got to know Emily on a more personal level. She came from a home that you could tell there's a whole lot of love, a whole lot of communication between them all. And since she hadn't called, they were really nervous.
Detective Rennie was one of the very first ones that we talked with. We understand that from the time that he got on the case, he didn't sleep. You know, we left the police department, you know, with their assurances that they were going to find her.
We're on our way to the elevator. I grabbed the children a couple of stuffed animals to give to them, to just try to comfort them. Dealing with the children and their emotions, knowing that there's a possibility that something bad has happened to their mother is probably one of the hardest things you could ever do. The youngest one looked at me and said, "My mommy's just lost and you're going to bring her home, right?" And at that point I told the child, yes, I'm going to do my best to bring her home.
That really reassured them. It really did.
Robert Early came back to the station. There was nothing pointing at him. We were just getting his statement. And through his statement, we might be able to find something in there that could help us lead to where she's at. At that time, he was our only lead. The clock was ticking.
In a non-custodial interview, they are not under arrest. They are free to go at any time. He's facing the door. Nothing's blocking the door. That way he knows, and he's told, man, if you decide to get up and leave, nobody's going to stop you.
I met her in November, and we've pretty much been inseparable since. I mean, I moved in, like, really, I guess officially December. I mean, but we pretty much, you know, her parents went out of town. We stayed at her parents' house. She stayed at my mom's house.
Okay, how old is she?
30.
Okay, how old are you?
33.
He's very cooperative on everything. Kind of going through a traumatic event because his girlfriend's missing. If he hadn't called it in, we wouldn't have known.
We drove to Carlsbad, did the Carlsbad Cavern deal. She got her little passport book stamped.
There was cell phones with pictures that included events during that Saturday prior to her missing. So, you know, that kind of backs up what he's telling us.
And then we went from there to Roswell. From Roswell, we went to a place called Tijuana's, and we had fajitas, and I had 2 margaritas, and she had 1. And then we went from there to a place called Farley's.
When we're doing an investigation, we like to get a timeline. We like to get a story. It gives us information that we can go and possibly check on, such as surveillance, receipts.
You know, it was her last night in town. So we met up with my boss at the hotel bar and just got pretty much obliterated from there.
The Blue Cactus, it's the only spot pretty much that we have here in Carlsbad. And so it does get packed over there. They were dancing. They were both happy. She was, you know, hugging on them, kissing on them. And she started playing pool with them. She was wearing a little short skirt. So every time she would bend over to take a shot, he would get behind her and, like, block the view.
The dress was see-through completely. I mean, you'd have to probably really, in a darker bar like that, notice, and she had some gray panties on. She was getting hit on by guys. She came back and said, "Hey, this guy said, if he's not taking care of you good, I'll take you home." Some strange dude. I'm like, whatever, you know, Emily, if that's what you want, go ahead and go. You know, she didn't get the response from me she wanted. You then I'm leaving. I figured she's gonna go smoke. She's gonna blow off some steam. She'll be cool. And so that's when I left. Right when I started thinking that.
How come she didn't take her phone?
Because it was dead and we only needed 1. We were going together. We were at the hotel. I mean, we walked over there. Went back to the room with the key. She wasn't in there. And then I started pacing up and down and walking around. And I shut the door.
What time that was going on?
Maybe a little bit after 12 or maybe 11:40, something in between 12:20 and 11:40 something, I'm guessing.
So you're saying she left with someone?
You know, I didn't see her actually leave with somebody, but she was talking about some dude who was leaving, you know. She's not at the hotel. She's not in the room. Where the else was she gone? everybody. She makes friends everywhere she goes.
Robert Early's living down here right now. He's working in the oil field, and his girlfriend's from Dallas. She's a school teacher. She came down to visit him for the weekend. Robert Early, they had went to the bar with his girlfriend, and they got into an argument, and Emily had left. Robert called 911 to report her missing. All the detectives are called out, and we work it as a team.
We were looking for evidence and interviewing witnesses, surveillance, different businesses around that area to see if they caught anything.
It's all hands on deck, just driving as far and as fast as they could to get everything done.
When Emily was missing, the first thing I did was create a Facebook page. Finding Emily is what it is. We called businesses in Carlsbad. Hey, can you print off this picture that's got this missing detailed information? Can you put it up in your window? Because if you get the word out, you get her picture out, more people know about it. What if she'd fallen and hit her head and she was stumbling through the desert somewhere? I mean, you don't know.
Carlsbad police have been working around the clock to locate the missing woman and bring her home safely. Friends and family say she'd never been out of touch with her 2 young daughters for this long.
The various news media here had gotten lit up about the situation.
And we thought, well, if we got it on the news that
Somebody might have seen something and go, oh, I saw her.
So you're saying she left with someone?
I didn't see her actually leave with somebody, but she was talking about some dude who was leaving, She's not at the hotel. She's not in the room. Where the else was she gone?
You just don't seem the type of person to me that the girl comes up and says, you, and turns around and walks off and you let that happen. You don't strike me as that type, dude. You just don't.
I mean, I know her. Y'all don't.
Exactly. We talked to several people at the bar, and none of them see her leave with anybody.
She could have gotten in the truck right away in the parking lot. Already had somebody waiting for her. I'm sitting here in my mind, and I'm going to ask you this question. Because I follow the missing persons report, and what's scaring me is I'm wondering why I'm being grilled so hard. Is everything okay?
Let me explain something. Okay. You're the last person that's seen her alive. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
I mean, hands down, you're the last person. If I'm getting to a point where either I'm getting frustrated or I'm running out of the questions I need to be asking, I'll get up and I'll walk out. Yeah, we use it as a strategy quite a bit. It opens Scott up to be able to start talking to him or asking questions.
A lot of times I'll just stay back in that chair and start heading directions that he wasn't hitting.
Was it noticeable that y'all had an argument?
I mean,
If someone was sitting at the table next to you all or in the area that day?
I kept it pretty much as discreet as I could.
I noticed he started scolding her, and then he started grabbing her from the back of the neck and started putting his finger in her face and shaking her.
How's your temper? Fights?
I'm never getting any fights.
You're going to tell me that you don't have a violent temper.
I don't have.
You're going to tell me that none of your friends are going to tell me that you're violent.
None of my friends are going to say I'm violent. I'm not. I'm not going to just sit there and, but I've never been arrested for beating up somebody. I've never been in an altercation.
Just because you're not arrested for it doesn't mean that you don't do it. You know what I mean? I have talked to some people in Dallas that say you do have a violent past.
Who?
I'm not going to tell you that. I had contacted his ex-wife and an ex-girlfriend. Robert Early's got a violent nature to him. Something's just not right. He says the phone's in the room, dead. According to Emily's parents, she never left her phone anywhere. This guy has rehearsed this story. A normal person, when they're telling you a story, they don't have exact times, the exact amount of drinks that they had, where they were at that exact moment, what they were talking about. They don't remember those kind of things right off the bat. That made him suspect. What's your gut telling you right now?
Yesterday I was having really, really bad tingly feelings, and that I just hope she's okay.
I'm not asking you what you hope. That's what's your gut feeling right now.
I honestly think that she got involved with some wrong people, and she's either hurt or trapped, or somebody's got her not letting her go. And then that, I mean, otherwise, why would she be back?
Okay, well, I mean, do you think she's dead?
I have no clue. I hope not. You know, and that's the last thing I want for my girlfriend and a mother of two and a school teacher. You know, when I have a daughter, I mean, I couldn't imagine if I went missing, my daughter couldn't see me anymore, or her mom.
Something happened, and we were going to get to the bottom of it one way or the other, and he was the key.
Hey, Robert, you be willing to take a polygraph?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. It'd probably be about 10 a.m. in the morning.
nerves are shot.
You know why you're here today?
Because my girlfriend's missing.
I asked Robert Early to take a polygraph.
Put your left arm out in front of you. Palm up.
I wanted to see if he was showing any deception in the story that he was giving us, because I already had it in my mind, you're lying to me, and I need to find out exactly what you're lying to me about.
Emily Lambert is your girlfriend, the one that you were with Saturday night, is that correct?
Yes.
We all have what is known as the autonomic or involuntary nervous system. That controls things like your heart rate, your breathing, your body temperature. Do you intend to answer truthfully all questions regarding the location of Emily Lambert?
Yes.
The polygraph instrument and its attachments are recording those physiological responses. And when a question is asked, if that question is a threat to the self-preservation and general well-being of Mr. Early, then he would have a physiological response. If they weren't, then he wouldn't. Do you know where Emily Lambert is located?
No.
Do you know where Emily Lambert is located right now?
No.
The particular test that I utilize is called the Utah 3. The 3 relevant questions are just reworded. It's just asking the same question again and again. Do you know where Emily Lambert is located right now?
No.
Do you know the location of Emily Lambert today?
No.
It had been 2-3 days since she went missing. If there is any possibility of her surviving, it's dwindling. He was our only lead. Maybe he knows more than what he's telling us.
Do you know where Emily Lambert is located right now?
No.
I had my doubts. My thoughts were definitely that he's involved some way or another. Him agreeing to do a polygraph, we figured this would be the best tool to give us a direction.
And you didn't pass.
How?
It was asked 3 separate ways, and you didn't do well on any of the tests anytime I asked you.
I want to take it again then.
He had the same reaction that everyone else does that fails a polygraph. Well, I want another one. That one couldn't be right. It doesn't work that way.
We got the results back from the polygraph, and Robert Early transitioned from a witness to pretty much a suspect. We had to get aggressive.
What's on your mind right now, Rob?
I'm just waiting to see what you say. I mean, you said you're going to show me.
I'm not going to show you anything. I can tell you, dude, the hardest thing I've ever had to do is look 2 little girls in the eye that says, my mama's lost. Are you going to bring her home? Being a father, yeah, man, that wasn't easy to do.
Do you know where she's at?
I was so proud.
Hands down.
I was hammered.
I understand that.
You were hammered, but something happened, right? We know that.
So we had an argument and she left, and that.
Everybody has telltale signs when they're telling a lie. Their body language, their facial expressions, the tones of voice change. Your shoulders are pretty heavy, dude. Now you cross your arms, your shoulders are heavy. I'm telling you right now, they are. When you have a lot of guilt on your conscience, you tend to feel like there's this weight on your shoulders, and you just kind of lean down. In most cases, when they're doing that, they want to tell you, they're just not to that point yet.
You know, we had an argument. She left, you know, from the hotel. You know, I mean.
Then what?
I got in the car and tried to drive around and look for her. And
you found her?
No, I never did find her. I never did get to find her.
Really?
We get lied to and they minimize. So that's where persistence and aggressiveness comes in. And the story changed.
I know she went in a vehicle.
What was the vehicle?
It was a thing. It had monster tires with Rockstar wheels on it, white, extended cab truck, and she was. I mean, it was the guy who she was talking to. Who she was talking to.
He's starting to get really nervous at that point. He was pretty close to being able to tell us the truth.
You know more than you're saying, because you just gave us more information, whether it's true or not. I kind of think it's half-assed bullshit, okay? I'm not trying to be an ass to you, but we're dealing with life here, buddy. We're dealing with someone's life.
I know.
We're not here to hammer on you. We're here to get the truth so we can possibly do something to help her. This isn't our first time to deal with this.
And you deal with one of two kinds of people. One, something that accident happened, or two, you deal with a monster.
I'm not a monster.
Huh?
I said, I'm not a monster.
You're not a monster.
No.
Convince me of that right now, because, dude, you coming forward with that right there and saying that, and you've been hiding it for 2 days, I have a problem with it. When you give a person a choice, then it puts it all back on them, and they want to believe that, hey, they're not a monster, that, you know, this bad things happened, and I'm sorry. So in giving them those choices, you give them an out. And that out is, you're going to tell me the truth. It's just going to be in a roundabout way.
I've been dreading this the whole time. I thought he'd bring her back or took her to the hospital or something happened. I wasn't sticking around. Dude was big. I mean...
Okay, start back when you're in the bar.
Dude pulls up. Emily gets in his ride. I just pulled out and went the way that I seen them pull out of the Stevens.
Which way did you go?
South.
When you went out?
I don't know the direction. Canal towards Walmart.
Okay.
Towards Walmart, south.
He pulls up into some sort of looking like housing little area or something, like a house or something. And by the time I get out, Emily barely had any clothes on, you know, and I pull up. We start, you know, beeping, and he comes running at me with a pipe, and she jumps in front. Blah!
Where'd he hit her?
Right in the head. I mean, and I was like, good. You know, and he comes at me, I just got in the car and just burned out, you know.
Okay, when he told us that story, yeah, we're getting closer. But he's still full of crap. Now he's putting himself around what happened, but he's still minimizing his involvement.
I waited it out because I didn't know what else to do. I've never been in this situation. I've seen movies and all the 48s and stuff. I mean, I'm guilt by association.
The only part that was believable was the fact of where the house was. Show me where the house is.
Is it a crew cab?
Was she bleeding?
It looked like there was blood.
Our focus at that point was, if he knows where the house is, show us the house, because we believe that something happened at the house and we're going to find her.
It's a pretty quiet drive. And Robert Early in the back. Anticipation. There's still that hope. You know, there's always that hope. You know, they're still alive.
Can you show us where that location is?
Show me where the house is.
Is it a crew cab?
Was she bleeding?
It looked like there was blood.
Robert Early is the main focus of the investigation. He is our suspect. He told us the Parkfish story of, hey, man, I followed this truck out, and this guy got out, swung, and whop, hits her in the head, and she drops. The only part that was believable in that story was the fact of where the house could be. If he knows where the house is, show us the house. There's always a hope that you're going to find the person alive. Maybe she's just injured, she's laying out there, and we can find her and get her help.
We drove out to 31. It was approximately 3 miles off of the Loving Highway. And Robert Early pointed out a residence kind of up on a hill. And we pull up to it, and there's 2 pilasters. This property was old. The house appeared to be been there a long time.
We get out of the car. Robert actually starts to walk with us when I tell him just stay at the car and we'll come back. We're kind of looking around and we notice these 2 drag marks in the road going back behind the house. And Lieutenant Blackman started following those tracks.
I continue to walk down the road, and it kind of just wraps around an old tin building. As I walk around that building and I look up, towards the north there, I can see an obvious body. It was a pretty bad scene, a lot of blood, especially around the head area. Tattoos matched. It was a lifeless body, and it was Emily. It wasn't good to see.
The first thing that came to my mind was her children and her parents, and how I was going to break that news to them.
It was Tuesday late in the afternoon. They called us to
That's
tell us
right.
that they had found Emily and that she was not alive. Don and I just hugged each other and said, well, that's it. We're alone now.
Emily, she had a brother who was killed in a vehicle crash 2 years prior to her death. They've lost both of their children.
I returned to where Robert Early was in my car smoking a cigarette. And I told him at that point, we found her. And he tried to act surprised, and he's smoking his cigarette, leaning up against my car. And he says, really, you found her? And I said, yeah, she's deceased. Absolutely no emotion. He just looked at me, kind of ducked his head, and continued smoking. I told the lieutenant that, hey, I'm going to go back to the station, try to find out the rest of the story. The lieutenant looks at me and says, you think that's a good idea? I was probably a wreck at that point.
There was just a little too much emotion involved with Sergeant Rennie. I just felt it'd probably be better to get somebody else in there to work a different angle, to get everything out. We had partial truth. We needed it all. It's hard to move forward without the confession.
All right, man. Well, I know you haven't talked to me yet, okay? Like I said, my name's Alan.
I selected Detective Sanchez based off of the way that I've seen him interview before, introducing somebody else, somebody that would build a different type of rapport, might be a little bit more effective in being able to get that confession.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not here to cut deals. I can't make promises. I'm not authorized to do that. But the district attorney's office won't do anything either right now until after we talk to you and give you the opportunity to tell your side and tell the truth.
Alan Sanchez, that guy can talk a talk, and he didn't have any problems throwing himself under the bus to get what we need.
I'm not married for a reason. It's because I'm a hoe bag. All right, straight up. And it's because I've been in different relationships and stuff, man. So I know how it goes, and it can get real heated. You can get jealous. Jealousy is a powerful thing, man, especially when you're drunk.
Yeah, and I told him, yeah, I'm a whole bag. I wanted him to see the human side of me, like I'm just a regular person.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wouldn't, yeah.
Oh, man, I hear you. I'm not trying to put that off. I'm just giving instances and examples, okay? That's it. Okay, we're just talking.
Yeah.
So I understand how that stuff goes, man. I really do. I understand how, especially when you're drunk, you're like, you get pissed. And obviously you were pissed that night, and you were like, what the hell,
I wanted him to understand that I understood how it was to be drunk and maybe not be in control of your emotions. I wanted him to feel like, man, this guy does understand. Yeah, you can lose your temper, and almost make him think that I felt like it's okay.
Does the severity of the crime, if I, to not including myself in saying I'm saying anything, but from your standpoint, would I ever see my kid again?
His voice, it was like shaky. You could just hear it. I remember being able to see his heartbeat in his neck, in his vein.
So you gotta understand something, Robert.
And I also want a cigarette.
Oh man, I've got you hooked up with cigarettes, yeah.
So
I smoke too, so
we'll go smoke a cigarette. I'll man, I'm tired of it, dude. God, I don't know much else. Let's go burn one, come back in there, and
you'll tell me everything
that I can remember.
There was a recorder that I had put inside my pocket, just in case we went outside.
Emily she's so headstrong, and she's bigger than any other girl I've been with, and a lot stronger. And she, after she was in the car and I did all that stuff, and I'll retell you it all and come back in here, but
I was nervous. If he confessed to me outside and it wasn't recorded, I wasn't gonna be able to use it. So as I'm going down the stairs behind him, I'm reaching in my pocket and I'm looking for the button to push to turn it on. But I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if it was recording or not, so I was actually very nervous. And since we have limited evidence, they're not gonna be able to get a conviction without the confession. I didn't want to mess that up. I was nervous about messing the case up. If he confessed to me outside and it wasn't recorded, I wasn't gonna be able to use it. We're outside having a smoke, and that's when he started to talk to me about what happened.
I kicked her with my steel toe.
You said you kicked her?
I kicked her with the steel toe. 4 times and she was out, and I was like, freaking out. I didn't know what to do.
I wasn't sure if I had the recorder on or not. I was actually already thinking, how am I going to get him to tell me everything all over again? And I was stressed out because just in case the recording wasn't going, I needed to take him back inside and recap it in front of the camera.
Let's start from the beginning, man. And no bullshit, no nothing, okay? No bullshit, no nothing.
It's going to be kind of hard to go, okay, so when you said you kicked her square in the face, can you, go through that with me one more time? You can't do that. You're leading them. And everything that is said after that is not admissible in court. I didn't want to mess up any chance of Emily getting any kind of, justice, and it be my fault.
We were arguing a little bit, it wasn't nothing big. It really wasn't nothing big.
What was the argument about, man?
She said that, some dude said that if I didn't treat her right, he'd take her home. And I was like, whatever, whatever. If that's what you want, go ahead and leave. And then when she said, you and left.
She went to the room. A short time later, he ended up going to the room.
She was like, I'm getting my and I'm leaving. We're done, it's over, I'm leaving you, this and that. And I was like, really? And then she was wanting to drive. That's what started the whole altercation in the room. She wanted to drink and drive all the way back to Fort Worth. I said, no, you're not leaving. She started going crazy with me, and we started, pushing around, and that's when she grabbed my arm and bit the hell out of me. And it swept me back, and I put my head against the wall. And that's when I got up and hit her. And then I kicked her. A couple times I lost it.
Where did you kick her the first time?
I think in the mouth.
Okay.
But I hit her in the side and kicked her in the mouth. She was still okay. She got up. And I was like, what? I was pretty shocked. I was able to get her down, and she was pretty crazy. I was tripping out. I didn't know what was going on, and then I kicked her again there.
Where'd you kick her that time?
I think in the face.
Okay.
Pretty much all headshots.
Okay.
He didn't show really any emotion. Not once did he cry. He talks about what he did to her like nothing. That's when I started thinking I'm dealing with somebody that may not feel remorse.
She was just laying there breathing, like a weird breath, and
Like she was knocked out?
Yeah, and I didn't know what to do. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm blind, oh my God. And I just put her in the car and drove out there. Skulls again behind that guy's house. She came to, and then as she was coming at me, I grabbed that freaking air pump, and I grabbed that and whacked her with it, and I whacked her with it a couple times.
How did you drag her back there, brother? I know it's probably a thing to think about, but I mean, did you grab her and drag her back, or did you wrap her with something and drag her back?
I wrapped her with something.
What did you wrap her with?
Rope.
A rope?
It was just a quick, like a slip, and then just threw it around the passenger door, shut the door.
Tied a rope around her neck, put the rope and jammed it in the door jamb of the car, and drug her body behind the car.
We go out to the crime scene, and those drag marks extend for roughly 510 feet. That distance, it's longer than a football field and a half. And then you find Emily. It's something that I will never forget.
When I found out what actually happened to Emily, I was sitting in a restaurant. I dropped my phone, and I literally slid into the floor under the table at the restaurant. I just melted into the floor. Nobody wants their best friend to die. Nobody wants their best friend to die the way she did.
The manner of death was blunt force trauma to the head. They determined that after dragging her with the rope that she was still alive because the injuries sustained while she was being drugged by the vehicle, she was bleeding at that point, so the heart was still pumping. And then he hits her in the back of the head with the pump till she's deceased.
When we saw her body, I just remember just thinking, man, this guy, like, who does this to somebody else? I mean, he basically tortured her. You know, is what it amounts to.
In the case of Emily Lambert, our office sought life without parole for the first time since the death penalty was repealed. We had to prove that when he took her out to that location and she was still alive, that she was being taken against her will, and the kidnapping was committed with the intent to kill.
The hardest part for me during the trial was to find Robert pocketed his phone, and I guess it made a call to Emily's phone and recorded, I guess, what were her last words. Never again get away from me. It was hard. It was really hard. Never again get away from me.
It was a great case to prosecute because they had done such a wonderful job investigating it. And that confession is what gave us the ability to seek that life without parole.
I really had a hard time interviewing him and doing the case. I'm glad he's going to be locked up forever. Yeah.
The detectives worked so hard to, not only get the confession, find her, because, it could have gone on and her body not be recovered and us never to know what happened.
When we finally wrapped everything up, it's a feeling of relief, but bear with me. Tough deal. Put closure on it for the family. But the kids were still out with Mom.
It was a very emotional time. It's the first time that I've ever told a child that I was going to bring the parent home, when in fact I brought them home, but they were deceased. So it hit home pretty hard and continues to this day. We try to stay in contact with the family as much as we can.
After the trial, they came for a trip here to Carlsbad, and we planned a luncheon, and Emily's favorite color was green. So they decorated everything in green, and they had gifts for the children. We had all the officers there, and we wanted them to have a positive memory.
We felt like they grew so close to Emily and felt like they knew her, and we wanted them to know the girls, and we wanted the girls to know and to appreciate what they did, for us and for them.
Emily's family had bracelets made, and they gave all of us one, and it says, remembering Emily Lambert, Lucky 23.
We called Emily Lucky, that was her nickname, because she was lucky in life, usually, ironically, and she liked the number 23 since I knew her. So all of her friends and her family all have Lucky 23 tattoos.
You're my good luck charm because you're my mommy's best friend. And mommy's grandma. No. Mommy's mom. You're great grandma.
Eden and Danica, both of them are just spunky little rays of sunshine, just like their mother.
Both girls know that their mom plays softball and loves softball. And Danica had her first softball game today.
Emily's youngest daughter.
She's our youngest. She got a hit her first time at bat, and the bases were loaded, so she got an RBI. We're hoping that she stays with it, because Em would have been pleased.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.
On scene, this looks like a shooting.
The victims had no idea what was coming.
Somebody was in that back seat that was extremely upset with the two people in the front seat.
My last two words to her was, Anissa, you're going to get killed behind him.
Yeah, I know everything that happened. I was in the truck when it happened.
Was it a drug deal gone bad? Was it a robbery?
That's him.
We need to get on this right away. We need to find this guy.
I don't know what is the truth and what is the lie.
I'm starting to think there's something more to this. A witness is a great thing.
We know everything you're going to tell me right now.
If in fact it's true. Waterloo is the 5th largest community in the state of Iowa.
It's a blue-collar town. It's people that put their 8 hours in and go home and want to be with their families. But it really doesn't matter where you're at in the city, there's going to be crime.
Junior was always the type of kid, he loved his mother. He loved his children. I knew he had a street life, but Junior was so protective, he kept that from me. You know, if I asked him questions, he'd be like, Mom, you don't want to know that.
Anissa Schroeder was my baby sister. Anissa was never the type of person to do things to hurt nobody, never harm nobody. Me and Anissa had the best relationship until she started dating with Junior.
I would always question where you get your money from. So I was afraid for his life at times. And I told him, I said, you can choose life or you can choose death.
911, what's your emergency?
Someone ran into someone else's fence. It's a Chevy truck.
Okay, are there still people inside it?
I think it's a female and a male, I think.
People are dead, okay.
There's blood everywhere.
They dispatched out police and fire and ambulance for a motor vehicle accident in the 1300 block of Donald Street.
303's on scene. This looks like a shooting.
When we approached the vehicle, there was a female driver and an adult male passenger. Both of them appeared to have gunshot wounds to the head. It appeared to us that somebody had sat in the back seat and shot them from behind. So it was a little unnerving to know that the victims had no idea what was coming at the time.
Shortly after 11:30, I got a phone call from Sergeant Krogh advising me to report to work that there had been a homicide. So I got out and made contact with the supervisor on scene, and right off the bat, he told me that this was going to be my first homicide as a primary investigator, so that kind of kicked it up a notch for me.
When I got up there to the crime scene, there was numerous squad cars. There was already investigators on scene, an ambulance.
The male victim in the car was identified as Ronald Skullark. His nickname was Junior. He's 28-year-old from Waterloo. The female victim in the car was identified as Anisha Schroeder, 18 years old, a young gal from town, and it appeared that they were boyfriend and girlfriend.
That morning, the phone rang. It was my daughter. She said, Mom, there's been a murder, and they say it's Junior. For that moment, that my life stood still. Looked like all of a sudden we all started moving in slow motion. Looked like we couldn't get out there fast enough.
I went to the ambulance to identify Anissa, to have a body bag unzipped, and your daughter's in there. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
When I walked up and I looked in the ambulance and he was just laying there. I wanted to feel something. I couldn't feel nothing. I couldn't feel my hands no more. I couldn't feel my feet. So that's one of the hardest thing for me as a mother to have to go through.
It's gut-wrenching to watch a person go through that, especially a mother of any child. And the families certainly deserve to have the person that took their loved one be brought to justice.
It was very important to me that the police find out who did this to my child. And when Camerati came in, he shook my hand and he said, I'm going to assure you that we're going to keep going until we find who did this to him.
At this particular scene, it was a very long trail of blood that led down the street from behind the vehicle. There was also footprints alongside that. So it looked like the shooting happened, then the vehicle kept moving, the blood trail started, and then the person that was in the back seat got out of the vehicle and then ran along that same path before they turned off and went into an area of an apartment that was nearby. It was my first homicide case as the lead investigator, so I immediately looked to Moeller for some guidance. Lynn Moeller was a long-time investigator, over 25 years in investigations at the Waterloo Police Department, so Lynn Moeller's kind of a legend around here.
One thing about Waterloo cops, you've seen our share of dead people. It's just good old police work. When you go to a crime scene, always look past the crime scene. I walked down this driveway, it was probably 150 feet long or so. There was a car. I don't know what drew me to the vehicle, but I looked at it, and on the left rear passenger, there was a smudge of blood, a good smudge. And these two people came out in They said that was their car. And they proceeded to tell me out there in the parking lot that they were leaving earlier. And this guy came running down the driveway from the street, and he was all out of breath. And it was somewhere between asking them and telling them to give him a ride. And he got in that left rear car door, and that's where the blood was. He wanted to be taken down the roadways, and then they dropped him off. The last thing they saw of him was going towards the street.
The next step in our process was to find out who this unidentified person was.
We went through leads, talking to the people who might know something. It was quite apparent that Junior was involved in drugs.
He had been known to be selling marijuana. And in fact, at the scene, there was a gun in the vehicle, some money, and some marijuana. It opens up a whole lot of possibilities as far as suspects and motivations for this particular shooting. Was it a drug deal gone bad? Was it a robbery? Was it a dispute over who's selling to who? That's what we needed to find out. And we got some information about a friend of Junior's, Raymond Deshaun Holmes. I went out to where Sean lived, and in fact, Sean was on the corner right in front of his house. I got out of the car, walked up the sidewalk to him, and he immediately confronted me with, "What's taking you so long? I've been waiting to talk to you."
Is he like a low-time dealer or kind of liquor dealer? Or, I mean, does he buy pounds normally? Well, that's what I'm getting at. I don't care that he sells dope, but
Yeah, he buy pounds normally. He don't buy little stuff.
My interview style has always been to try to keep the person feeling comfortable. And I deal with people from all walks of life. I've never felt it was beneficial for me to talk down to somebody.
yeah, I don't care. If you got a half pound in your house right now, I don't care.
I smoke weed. I ain't gonna lie to you. This is one of my best friends, so.
Sean wanted to tell me about a person named Tay and wanted to give me some information about him and Junior and Friday morning.
Tay told you he was in their car.
In the truck, yeah.
In the truck, Suburban, and you bought 2 pounds of dope.
How close are he and Junior? Close enough Junior trust him.
Is Tay scary like that? I mean, would he do some shit like this?
He's a robber.
He's a robber, maybe he's a robber.
He will rob somebody. You know what I'm saying? He's known for that.
Why kill him?
That I can't answer.
You think that he would actually be down for this, though, Tay?
Yeah. I hate to admit it, but yeah, I do.
After the information that Sean had given us, we immediately wanted to talk to Tay. They went out to do some surveillance on him and see if he was moving or not. They quickly saw him, and Tay was stopped with his girlfriend, Ashley Edwards. They were brought down to the station.
I'm investigator Cam Ryder, but you can call me Rob. It's just the last of here.
All right.
Okay. What's your name?
Martavis Keys.
Martavis Keys?
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and talk to me about this then? Why we brought you down here?
Why y'all brought me down here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming because of the murder accident. Murder, right? That's what I'm assuming. Yeah.
Did you already talk to somebody about this?
I talked to Fleeger. What's the detective name?
Fleeger?
Yeah.
Fleeger.
Yeah, my fault, yeah.
When did you talk to Fleeger?
That same day. That later on that evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once we got the information that Tay was a person of interest, news traveled quickly here in the police department. Investigator Feeker from the task force called me up and told me an interesting piece of information.
Tay was a confidential informant of mine.
So Tay is a confidential informant. But on the other hand, there was a drug connection between Junior and Tay.
At this point in the investigation, we didn't know if Tay was a witness or a suspect.
Let's set some ground rules, okay?
Yeah.
I just want to know the truth.
I'm gonna tell you what happened, right? Now about what I was there. I seen everything.
This was a double homicide on the street in Waterloo, Iowa. Obviously, somebody was in that back seat that was extremely upset with the 2 people in the front seat. And the 2 people in the front seat come up with the short end of the deal. The driver of the Suburban was Anissa Schroeder, 18 at that time. And the male in the right front seat was Ron Skollark Jr., and he was 28.
Junior had a very interesting personality. He was outgoing. He had this grin about himself, his laughter, that if he laughed, you had to laugh with him. That was his personality. Always, even as a kid, he always smiled.
I met with Patricia the day after the homicide, and she was very forthcoming and honest. She knew that he was involved in some things that he probably shouldn't be, and she had no problem relaying that.
Camarati, he acted as if he knew Junior. Everything he did it personal. Just calling, checking on you today. Letting you know that we're still working on the case. Is everything okay? To have a police officer to have so much compassion, it was almost unbelievable.
Nobody deserves to die in such a violent manner, whether they're involved with drugs or not. I had talked to Raymond Deshawn Holmes, and he told me about a person named Tay. Investigator Feeker heard that we were looking for him and told me that Tay was an informant of his.
I met Tay back in July of 2007. He was picked up with some marijuana. He decided to help himself out and work with me. He was able to provide information on several cases where we were able to seize some drugs and guns. During my time with Tay, I felt that he was very truthful and honest with me. I think that boosted his credibility during the interviews.
Know why we brought you down here?
Why y'all brought me down here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming because of the murder accident. Murder, right?
Investigator Camaretta interviewed Martavis Tay Keys, and I ended up interviewing his girlfriend, Ashley Edwards. She was 8 months pregnant. You always separate the people you're going to interview.
2 people died, and it's important for you to be honest. What is Tay's relationship with Junior regarding drugs?
I don't have reasons to lie to you because I really don't honestly know very much about what's going on besides of what I've heard everyone talking about and what I've seen on the news.
It wasn't me. I wasn't there. I don't know what you're talking about. To me, that's kind of an indicator of a witness that I don't think is necessarily telling the truth.
Tay's relationship with Junior as far as drugs. And if you sit there and say, I know nothing, Ashley, that's the first time you lied to me.
The more forceful thing just doesn't personally work for me as the interviewer. There's definitely a power in not talking, because sometimes that makes a person more apt to just start speaking on their own. I barely even mentioned what the purpose of coming down to the station was, and he said,
I know everything that happened. Yeah, I know everything that happened. I was in the truck when it happened.
You were in the
truck? I was in the truck when it happened.
And that took me by surprise. It just happened so quickly. He just started spilling information.
Junior picked me up, and when we got in the car, there was already a guy in the car. You know what I'm saying? There was already a guy in the car. And when I got in the car, them two was arguing. And he was telling the chick, you know what this is all about. You know what this is all about. And then she's like, I swear to God, I don't know. Then he was like, you know your boyfriend robbed you or some shit. Junior turned around and slapped him.
The guy in the backseat?
The guy in the backseat turned around and slapped him. And then dude pulled the pistol, and then dude bang, shot him. I froze up like, man, what you doing? What you doing? So then I hop out and just run.
Where do you run?
I run to the brown apartment building. And then somebody was pulling out. I hopped in there like, can I get a ride?
Tay was the one that had gotten a ride from the 2 people that Investigator Mueller had to talk to at the crime scene.
Tay's story appeared to be credible. The information that he gave, it was voluntary. I didn't have to push to get the information, and it seemed genuine, and he seemed like he really wanted to help us out.
When we're interviewing, we're not alone in there. There's somebody back in the audio-video room watching and listening to both of us. And if Rob has something that I should know that would warrant him interrupting my interview now, they're going to let me know. There was a knock on the door, and then I went out and talked with another investigator. He said that Tay is saying that he was in the Suburban. There was a 4th person, and this 4th person got into an argument with Junior and ended up shooting them both. The strategy at this point in time when I learned that information is she is not leaving that room until she tells me the truth.
Something happened right before he got to your place.
I knew something was going on. There was a lot of blood at the scene. He had blood on his shoes, on his arm. He went through a very traumatic experience. And you're just telling me he came home and didn't do nothing? If you're not truthful with me tonight, it can come back and cost you in the future.
There's 2 people who are dead. And your boyfriend next door is admitting to being there when it happened. Sometimes times when people get close to telling the truth, this is what happens. You got to understand. We know everything you're going to tell me right now. Tay has said it.
Told me that he was in the car with Junior and his girlfriend was driving, and whoever the was in the car with them, and him and Junior were arguing about, don't you owe me some money? Before he said he had looked over and a gun went off.
Then he said that he got a ride from somebody. Never told me who the somebody was. He told me he went to his friend Mark's house.
When they were both on the same page and giving us the same information, that can mean one of two things. She's corroborating his story, or they both have their story straight.
It's not real common in Waterloo to have a witness come forward that quickly that gives that much information that soon after the crime. So then the first thing we want to do is identify this unidentified person.
I'm going to show you a group of photographs. This group of photographs may or may not contain a picture of the person who committed the crime being investigated. Any questions about that? No. Okay. Number one. Turn the page.
Yeah, Tony Page. Yeah, Tony Page.
Number two.
Nope, not him.
Number three.
Damn, that's him.
How sure are you?
Yeah, I'm like 199% sure. Yeah, that's that man.
The suspect that he had named was Clarence Flowers. It was definitely a major step forward in the case. We need to get on this right away. We need to find this guy.
That's all right. The almost done, all right? Almost over there.
Tay's making comments that he doesn't feel safe going home. He thinks this person's going to come after him. Who's going to protect him?
I don't want anyone to be able to hurt him or you. Okay, and I think that's a realistic risk, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to put you guys up in a hotel on our dime, okay? We're going to have a police officer sit outside the door.
Let's stick him in a hotel and put an officer on him for protective custody, aka make sure they don't go anywhere.
A witness is a great thing, if in fact it's true.
Maybe there was a fourth unknown person, maybe there wasn't. Could have happened that way, but he had blood on him, and for him to run away, if you're completely innocent, the doubt started coming up.
I'm skeptical of basically everybody. We want to verify the story that Ashley and Tay have given us. So I arranged to have a polygraph examiner come that next morning.
If he does not pass the polygraph, Tay will cross that line from witness to suspect.
Halloween 2007 would have been the last day I seen Anissa. My last 2 words to her was, Anissa, you're gonna get killed behind him. And not even 2 days later, what happens? She's gone.
She was still 18. She was still a baby. She was still just starting to experience life, starting to grow up. You don't ever get over the murder of your child. You'll never get over it.
Officer Camerata showed nothing but sympathy and reassurance that whoever was the murderer, I'm not gonna arrest until this person's caught.
I went and picked up Tay on Monday morning and brought him down the station for the polygraph exam. But first, I want to ask about something.
Is it okay, man? That's some housekeeping stuff I have to do. Just a couple quick clarifications on some of the things from last night.
Moeller had told me that Ashley had told him that Tay had stopped by a friend of his house before coming home.
He told me he went to his friend Mark's house. He ran to his friend Mark's house.
Your girlfriend told the other investigator that you had told her that you had been to Mark's on Friday morning.
Mark? Yeah, that morning I've been there. Yeah, that morning, yeah.
You want to change anything? Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Rob was going to have the examiner do the polygraph, and I actually took Ashley out and drove around with her to see if she could show me where this Mark lives.
What I'm going to do is do a test on you about your statement to him. Okay, to make sure that you told him the truth. All right. Have you ever had a polygraph lie detector? That's the first time. Never. Okay.
Tay's story, it appeared to be credible, and Ashley had corroborated quite a bit of it, but we were still skeptical. It was just almost too good to be true, because he did have a criminal record.
Regarding that shooting last Friday, do you intend to answer truthfully each question about that?
Yes.
Next question. Are you now lying to Officer Camerata in your verbal statement about that shooting?
No.
If he does not pass the polygraph, Tay goes from now the witness to the suspect.
Okay. Just a question. Yeah. What do you think this car was?
I don't know.
Oh, what do you think it was? Did you tell the truth during the test?
Yeah, I believe so.
Huh.
It
came back truthful.
I knew I was telling the truth.
Well, I mean, you were either telling the truth or you weren't, so there's no question.
So I'm in the clear, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I can go home now, right?
Well, you could have gone home last night. That wasn't the question, okay?
Yeah.
Have a seat. Have a seat.
Beautiful.
I felt it as a little bit of relief. This person that I've known, he was my confidential informant, wasn't actually the person that committed this crime.
It was definitely a good moment. We had an eyewitness. He was willing to help us out. And now the polygraph examiner is telling me his story is true. Now we can take this to the next step and really start looking for our suspect.
Is there anything you can help me with that'll help me find the guy?
Damn, that's him.
How sure are you?
Man, I'm like 199% sure. You know what, man? Just let me out on the streets. I'll go find this dude right now.
Well, I mean, I don't want you to do that.
The next phase in the investigation was for Investigator Feeker and I to go with Tay to drive the route for him to point out different points in the crime scene. While our guys were out there looking for Clarence Flowers, the suspect that Tay had named, and Moeller at the same time went out to speak with Mark, which is the house that Tay had stopped at before he went home.
It was before noon. It was 11:45 in the morning. Mark was actually kind of upset at Tay. He said, he kicked my back door in. And he used a lot more profound words than that. I went over there and looked at the door. His back door was kicked in. There was blood on this wall right here. And he had tracked blood on the floor in the kitchen. These thoughts are starting to creep in my head. He's run this long of a distance, running on streets, running across Highway 63. But he's still got enough blood on him to brush up against the wall and make tracks in the kitchen yet. I'm starting to think there's something more to this. This thought just popped in my head. I says, what color was the gun he had with him when you give him a ride? What color was that gun? Rather as compared to, did you see him with a gun? You know what his answer would have been if I said that? No, I didn't see no gun. I says, what color was the gun that he had? It was black. I'm trying not to show my emotion and says, okay, when did you see the gun? He says, well, when we were crossing the street, the gun fell on the street. And then I wanted to jump up and down and do a cheerlead. I got a phone call from Moeller. I'm over here at Mark Lee's place, and Tay had a gun when he was over here. Okay. I was shocked by it. I'm waiting for him to say something. I mean, time just drug on. It's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. 50. I said, did you hear me? Moeller repeated, Rob, did you hear me? Tay had a gun. Well, I'm thinking, why in the hell aren't you saying, you gotta be shitting me? He had a gun? It instantly struck me the parallels between my current situation and Friday morning's incident. I'm sitting in the same place Anissa was, Feeker's sitting in the same place Junior was, and Tay is sitting in the same place the shooter was, and now we know that Tay had a gun on Friday morning. We're in plain clothes, sitting in the car, our guard is down, there's no partition, and I don't want him to know that he's changed from a witness to a suspect, just like that. I say to Moeller, okay, yep, I'll see you in a little bit. We drove back to the station. I escorted Tay back to the interview room. It's time to go back in and talk to Tay. Tay and I have already built this relationship where he's free to talk to me and I can talk with him, we can exchange information. So I don't want to go in and just confront him with this. I need to explain to him, we need to be truthful, some information has come up, and I want him to give me that information about the gun.
The reason I came back here is there's some things came up.
I try to keep barriers out of the way, so I didn't want the table between the two of us. I wanted to sit near Tay, so there's that close feel relationship.
You need to be brutally honest with me about what happened over at Mark's house, okay?
Hey, nothing happened over there.
Did you drop anything outside?
No, I ain't dropped shit.
Okay. Look, you need to be honest with me here.
Swear to God, I ain't dropped nothing.
Okay? Did you drop something else?
I didn't drop nothing. What did I drop though? I ain't dropped no gun or nothing if you thinking that or something.
I didn't say gun. Why did you just say gun?
I'm just saying, though. You said, you know what I'm saying, what did I drop? I didn't drop nothing.
Okay. I didn't say anything about a gun. You just said I didn't drop a gun. Why did you say that?
I'm just saying, because you was like, did you drop something?
Would it surprise you to hear that they said that you dropped a gun?
Hell no, man.
Listen to me.
Hell no.
Look at me. I ain't playing. I haven't been playing. I'm putting down here. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Honest with you,
okay? Stop talking for a minute, okay?
That's real.
No reason why, when I ask you, did you drop something, you say, you mean like I didn't drop a gun or nothing, there's no reason that you would just pick that out of nowhere.
Yeah, because
you never said anything about a gun before, so why would you say it now?
Yeah, because it's what you just say, like, did you drop anything? Like
keys, like a phone.
I told you that I dropped my keys.
Any of those things have been possibilities, but you picked a gun out of nowhere.
He's withholding the truth, and withholding the truth is the same thing as lying. And if he lied about that, what else in his story did he lie about? If he lied about the gun, what else in his story did he lie about?
This is not the time to play games. I know that you lied to me, man. I know that you lied, and now I'm wondering why you lied.
This gun, it changes the story dramatically. First and foremost, Tay left it out, and leaving it out is lying to me. Plus, Tay had identified the suspect, Clarence Flowers, and our guys found the suspect, and he had a rock-solid alibi. He was nowhere near Waterloo at the time of the homicide. This new information has definitely changed the way we look at Tay. He was a witness, and now he's sliding towards that suspect category. There's a lot of explaining that needs to be done.
While you still had blood on you, you had a gun. Yes or no?
Like that? Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
He finally did admit that he had a gun at Mark's house. That doesn't mean he committed the murder. Just, I want him to tell me about this gun, and then we can move on to when he had the gun and why he had the gun.
I'm not saying that you shot them, man. I just need to get you to resolve why you had the gun with you and when you had it with you. But if you tell me these stories that I know aren't true, it doesn't help you.
Yeah,
look at me, man. Look at me. I'm serious with a heart attack here, okay? I know when you're telling the truth and when you're not, okay?
Right now,
so
I know.
What the thing about it is that if I walk out of here going, well, he's told me another story and that's not the truth, we are nowhere. We are nowhere helping you, okay?
I still want to stay in that role of I'm on your side, I'm your friend. I still want to keep that relationship alive. I want him to continue to trust me.
Can I see my girl?
Yeah, I will bring her down here and you guys can sit in the room alone.
Go get her.
I'm not going to bring her down here until we talk. I need to know what kind of gun that was.
It was just a small gun, man, like 38 or something, you know what I'm saying?
The size of the actual gun doesn't matter. I want to know what caliber it was.
What do you mean by caliber?
What kind of bullets it took?
I don't know, man. I don't know all that man, about what kind of bullets it took and all that man.
Obviously, we're going to be able to match the type of gun that killed these two people to a particular make and model of a gun. I think he realized that as well, and now he doesn't want to associate himself with that type of gun.
I mean, you think I'm lying, man? You think I'm lying, man? Just go ahead and take me downtown right now. Then. On some real I've been nothing but real to you all day now. On some real
As his story continues to disintegrate, and I know that he's not telling me the truth, I have to confront him.
So where's it at now? No, before you can say anything, if you can't tell me where the gun's at now, that's not good.
Man,
where's the gun now?
I threw it in the trash.
Not good enough.
I thought about it like, okay, now, if they come back and question me about this shit, then I got a gun at the house, then it's gonna look real obvious. You know what I mean? I had walked down to the laundromat, and then I threw it away.
And what kind of a garbage can?
It was like a big dumpster garbage can.
What color?
It was green.
It's Monday morning. There's no garbage on the weekends. If you put that gun in that garbage, it's still there right now.
Well, it's still there then.
So if we go there and we don't find it, then what are you going to tell me?
And then, that's the truth, man.
What are you going to tell me if we don't find it?
And then you can think what you want to think, man. You can arrest me and charge me with the shit you want to, because I know that I didn't do shit. I know this for a fact. Now, you can make me sit here and take a polygraph test, all this crazy shit.
I started to think, how did I miss this? How did I believe all this yesterday? How did he pass the polygraph and I was convinced that he was telling the truth, and how did this get past me?
Your story is falling apart, man. I'm telling you, all of a sudden, if we were in a boat, we'd be sinking, okay?
Oh my God, I'm telling you.
This is not working, okay?
It's becoming very apparent to me that this is our guy. This is the guy that shot Junior and Anissa. wasn't asking anymore what happened. You're to that point where you know enough to put this person as our main suspect, as a perpetrator of this crime. Now ask the why.
Why did you shoot him?
I didn't shoot him, man. I didn't.
I'm not asking if you shot him. I'm asking why you shot him. There's a difference.
I was asking why it happened. That's a strategy that a lot of investigators use. It's allowing that person to explain themselves, because I want him to give me the information, not just have him say yes or no.
Why did you shoot Junior?
Why do you feel like I shot him for?
I'm not going to keep playing.
I don't think I shot him.
You don't think you shot him?
I don't know.
You don't know or you don't think?
I didn't. You're saying I committed a murder?
I'm not saying the word murder, okay? I'm saying that I know that you shot them. I don't know why you shot them.
I'm telling you nothing but the truth, man.
I got frustrated because he just, he wasn't wanting to provide information. I took him to the holding cell because we just were not moving forward.
You want to change it? It's not going to go.
I took him to the holding cell because we just were not moving forward. Once again, Moeller is interviewing Ashley.
These rooms can get a little warm, one way or the other.
I have yet to work a case where somebody comes in and says, oh, yeah, I saw my boyfriend shoot somebody. That's not the way it works. She's not going to give it to me freely, and that's part of the game you play in there.
Now is the time you need to say something and accept the fact that Tate's going to be arrested. Just because you weren't told a few little white lies and didn't tell me the whole story doesn't make you a bad person. But you've got something on the way here. You're young, you got a life ahead of you. It says, no, I'm going to bring her back down here and give her a chance to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
When you're sitting there talking to somebody and they're this close, and all you got to do is think in your head, what can I say to make her cross that line? She's sitting over there, she's 8 months pregnant. She doesn't need to be getting in trouble.
This is a good thing to stop, because that little child in there didn't need to be around that stuff. And that child, at the very least, needs at least a mother there to take care of him or her.
It's the best for them to tell the truth about what happened, and you stay there and you keep going forward, and finally they say,
I wanted to believe him.
mission accomplished.
Told me that there was a fight and that he had stopped somebody else, and the story changed, and that somebody had shot somebody.
I don't think Ashley fully realized what had happened and what she had become a party to.
I don't know what is the truth and what is the lie, because the story kept changing.
The truth is what you know and what you saw.
They was scared. Didn't know what to do. And the clothing blew all over me. That's why I had to get rid of them. Took off his clothes and put them in a garbage bag. Put the garbage bag into the suitcase.
Tell me where the gun and the garbage bag with the suitcase went.
Everything got burned. My clothes got burned. 7 bridges.
And what happened to the gun? Where at?
We're in prison.
We're gonna go for a ride. And you're gonna have to show me where you burned it, where it was tossed. All right?
Investigator Lake and I took her up to 7 Bridges, and lo and behold, there's a little circular fire pit with rocks around it. You could see the wiring frame from the suitcase. It was all right there yet. And then she went over and stood by the water, and she showed the direction where he threw the gun in, and we went back to the station, and then things had progressed between Camerata and Tay.
She just told the investigators some information that you left out.
What?
Okay? Now you're getting her involved. Okay?
What?
She told us about the park and the campfire. Can we talk about it? You're going to feel better when the truth is out. Right now there's a big weight on your shoulders, is there not?
Yeah, white.
I think he starts seeing that the walls are kind of closing in around him, that we do know quite a bit of information that's putting him as our only possible suspect in this. And he kind of switches gears.
I know, look, come here, man. Come on, man.
My back is killing me, man, and I'm serious. I don't think you're going to tell me, but I'm not going to play.
I got frustrated. The families deserve to have the person that took their loved one, took their life, be brought to justice.
I'll tell you, man. Just let me see how. I swear to God, I'm gonna tell you, man. Just do that.
I don't think you're gonna tell me.
Look, I'll tell you everything you need to know as soon as you get here. I swear I will. Don't joke. You get him here, get her here. Let me talk to her husband one more time, and then demonstrate her on the way, and then me and you can have a conversation, and then you go finish your paperwork. No joke. I sit in the what you want me to do? Sit right here?
I escorted her back to the room and left, knowing full well that the room has cameras and it has audio as well. So whatever he said to her, I knew we were going to pick up on.
It's okay, baby. No problem. No, I'm glad you did that. So now I can tell him what really happened.
Tay, he said he'd tell us the truth if he could go in and talk with his girlfriend. And we're sitting there back in the audio video room watching.
Cuz, I ain't want to hurt your feelings, man. That's why I ain't want to put you in that. You know what I mean? It's over, though. I'm gone. No more tape.
I'm watching with several other investigators and officers at the same time in the back room, and it's a victory for us, obviously.
Being a retired investigator, and one of the things I miss most, that's getting a confession like this.
After hearing that he confessed, it seemed unreal because you put the trust in someone for those few short months that I was with Tay when he was my confidential informant. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, maybe that could have been me. Maybe he could have turned on me when we were together.
Baby, I'm so sorry. I swear to God, I'm so sorry.
Camerati came over, and he said that we have a suspect. His name is Martavis Keys. He has confessed to the killing. I couldn't feel myself. I was just numb.
Officer Camerata said that he was being charged with the double homicides. It was, I don't know, it was emotional, but it was good. It just made me feel good knowing that they had him.
The next day, we recovered the gun. Everything fell together so quickly, and then when the trial comes, both the TV News and the Courier are there.
Prosecutors say Keys committed the murders. The reason? To steal a large amount of marijuana from Scalarg.
They played the majority of Tay's interview, as well as a large portion of Ashley's. And those are extremely important. The jury likes to see that in person. It was crucial.
Investigator Camerata did a wonderful job because a confession goes a long ways. There's no other way of getting out of it. That's your guilt right there.
We, the jury, find the defendant Martavis Deshawn Keys guilty of murder in the first degree.
It was murder first, which in the state of Iowa is a mandatory life without the possibility of parole.
Maybe we should feel like it's a victory, but it's another life that has been taken. I don't know if he's gonna suffer in prison. I don't know that. But I knew one thing. At that moment, I had to forgive him.
Yeah, put some comfort in there, knowing that he's not going to be out there no more, knowing that he's going to, spend the rest of his life in prison. But deep down, does anything ever really close it? She was 18. She had a whole life ahead of her. But knowing that somebody just deliberately took my baby from me is something that I can't get over. I can't. I miss Anissa dearly. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever get over her death. That's the only sister I have. I don't have no other sisters. Martavius gets to live every day. He still gets to make phone calls to his kids. I go talk to my sister at a grave.
You feel bad for everybody that's involved in this. Junior, Anissa, Patricia, and Tammy. And I feel bad for Ashley, and especially their unborn child. Everybody, in some way, shape, or form, is a victim here.
Martavius didn't have to take his life. He really didn't. But that's part of the street world. It really is. It's a game, but it's murder. It's pure death.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.
She just vanished into thin air. She was gone.
Was this an abduction? Is this a single mother that may have snapped? Something was wrong.
When you hear mother, loving, employed, those people simply do not vanish.
It wasn't uncommon for her to take these late night walks.
At 2 in the morning, you're just going to be walking the neighborhood by yourself?
He was the ex-husband.
Maybe she had tripped and fallen.
I felt compelled to speak to her.
He may actually be involved in her disappearance.
She's a very attractive girl.
And now I feel kind of like a suspect.
We knew that Laura had been dating Stephen even before Tricia and Stephen had been divorced.
That's a huge red flag.
We got the results from the polygraph. We couldn't believe what we saw.
Holy crap. I made a deal with the devil.
Oh my gosh, what have we done?
Hope Sound is in southern Martin County, out of South Florida.
Everybody knows each other. It's a small town. It's a beach community, very relaxed, flip-flop shorts. It's not very fancy.
We do experience a number of homicides in the county overall, but they don't occur with any great degree of regularity down in the Hope Sound area.
If something happens, everybody knows or have heard of what happened. I have approximately 17 years of law enforcement experience. This is probably the only case that when I was at home, I broke down in front of my wife. On April 27th, John Todd called the Martin County Sheriff's Office to report that his sister, Tricia Todd, is missing. She didn't pick up her daughter, Faith, that day at the babysitter, which was highly unlike her.
When we got the call from the babysitter saying that my sister was hours and hours late to picking her daughter up, we really just didn't have any explanation whatsoever.
If there was a hurricane, or if she had to crawl, she would pick up Faith. If she didn't, something was wrong. Our deputies arrived to the residence where she was living.
The scene at Tricia's house was normal. There was nothing ransacked, nothing suspicious at all.
Her vehicle was parked across from her residence. It wasn't in her normal parking spot. With her purse and her keys inside the vehicle, but her cell phone and wallet were gone. Our deputies at the time had initiated a BOLU, or be on the lookout for a missing person. Tricia was very fearless.
She was a very free spirit. She would go out on the beach and walk and pray and read her Bible and everything. I mean, in the middle of the night, she would just do things like that and scare me half to death.
To get to that area from where she lived, she would go through some of the rougher parts of town to actually get out to the beach.
Perhaps she had gone on a walk to get away, and then maybe she had tripped and fallen and injured herself.
We didn't know if she went for a swim, the tide took her out. We weren't sure what happened. We had no idea. She could essentially just disappear.
Was there someone that she may have encountered while she was out for one of her walks? Was this an abduction? Or suicide was a possibility? Is this a single mother that just had too much on her plate and may have snapped? There's so many questions.
That night, we called Trisha's brother. The responding deputies asked who was she with last, and Mr. Todd said that Mr. Williams, her ex-husband, was in town.
They had divorced in February of 2016. We contacted Stephen Williams over the phone, and he advised that he'd come down for the week to visit his daughter, which was common.
The investigator spoke with him, said he was very calm, very natural. Stephen also provided information that Trisha was prone to wandering off on her own. It didn't tell anyone where she was going.
Mr. Williams basically told him that he's on his way back to North Carolina. He himself could not find Trisha, and he had to leave so he could go to work the next day, so he dropped their daughter off at the babysitter's. As far as her ex-husband, he's an Air Force guy, doesn't have a criminal history.
He was very cooperative when we called him and spoke to him. He seemed to be a down-to-earth guy.
At this point, we're about 24 hours out, and we still have no sign of Trisha Todd. We're still trying to figure out what exactly happened to her, because now we're starting to believe that maybe she didn't just go for a walk. We had nothing.
We started to get more of a sense of urgency. As the Sergeant in Major Crimes Division, all eyes were on me and how we were going to handle this.
Detective Carday is a bulldog. When she sinks her teeth into a case, she's not going to let go until she gets justice.
Communication with the Todd family was definitely key. We had different investigators assigned to different members of the family.
Sergeant Carday called me right away, and she was really wonderful to me.
We were just sending our investigators on different avenues to study Trisha.
She went through the Air Force, then she got out and used her GI Bill benefits to get her nursing degree. Trisha always wanted to be a nurse. That was just something she loved to do, and she was so grateful to God for her little baby.
During the first 48 hours, our biggest task was to find her alive.
Right now, authorities and volunteers are ramping up in their search for a young mom who disappeared without a trace.
When we realized that Trisha Todd was in fact officially a missing person, it was extremely personal for me. I have a daughter Trisha's age. I know the Todd family, and my children went to school with Trisha. My constant theme was, what would I want someone to do if my daughter was missing?
More than 60 volunteers are joining a cavalry of deputies to canvass the harsh Florida scrub brush near the woman's home.
We were looking everywhere, trying to find any trace of where Trisha might have gone.
We had 20-something canines. We brought four-wheel drive vehicles into the woods. We used aircraft.
She was a soldier, she was tough, she was a nurse. If she was alive somewhere, we wanted to find her while she was still alive.
Part of getting into the mindset of Trisha Todd was to look at her social media. We looked at all her Facebook friends. We got access to all her email accounts. One of the people that she had spoken a lot about was a ventriloquist and musician named Brent Vernon.
Why don't you go play the keyboard so I can see?
He was a local performer from Hope Sound.
She started following him more on Facebook, sending him messages. She would show up to his shows.
So we tried to talk to every family member we could, every friend.
Now, I understand there was some ventriloquist. What do you know about him?
He's someone that she has said that she's very infatuated with.
They never even had a conversation. This is someone that she's stalking on Facebook.
So she never really talked to him.
Right.
This is the only guy that she was interested in?
That what we know, yeah. They had one conversation months ago, but it was like very brief. She was just saying that she admired his music.
Trisha's interest in Brent Vernon was a little more than a crush. It was almost an obsession. She had told many of her friends that she had plans to spend the rest of her life with him.
She had also sent him a friend request on Facebook recently, and he wouldn't accept a friend request. He knew how she felt for him, and the feelings weren't mutual.
Based on some of the things she had said to her friends, we believed that she was planning some sort of big, dramatic event where she was going to profess her love for Brent Vernon.
One of the theories we came up was that she had taken off for a little while just to get herself together so she can go and make this grand entrance.
We believed this was going to happen at a local show that he was going to do when he came back to Hobe Sound.
Trish, she told me she was going to go up and invite herself to sing one of the songs that he wrote.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that at all for me?
She was very excited. She was telling me how compatible they are and how it's going to be some shaking up when they do get together, her and Brent.
Okay.
We decided to go to the show in hopes that she would show up. We knew it was coming up in a couple days, but in the meantime, we had other leads we had to follow. Every second mattered.
Anytime we have someone go missing, anyone who has a romantic interest or relationships like that is obviously going to be a very important person that we need to talk to. This is a person that may have critical information that we need to get right away. Her ex-husband, Stephen Williams, had recently been in Hobe Sound visiting.
Trisha met Stephen Williams when she was in high school.
Stephen was charming. Everyone liked him, and they were happy.
But after 10 years, Trisha divorced Stephen. Trisha said, I don't need alimony. All I want is just a reasonable amount of child support. She said, I'm going to give Stephen all the access he wants with faith. She was very fair with him in that way.
We initially interviewed Stephen Williams over the phone. Now, over the phone, it's hard to see that person's demeanor, see their reactions. So we contacted Raleigh Police Department and requested their assistance in bringing him into the interview room so they can see his body language and make sure his statement was consistent with what he had told us on the phone.
I know it's not going ever. We got to work. Appreciate you guys. Do you mind if I shut the door so I'm talking privacy?
Martin County Sheriff's Office, their detectives had reached out to us once Ms. Todd was reported missing and found that her ex-husband had been in their jurisdiction and visiting their 2-year-old child at the time of and just prior to her disappearance.
The plan was just to meet with Stephen Williams. He actually came to the station voluntarily, drove himself there.
Run right into this so I don't waste a lot of your time. Trisha is missing.
A little bit of the background I believe we had was that he had left around the time Trisha went missing, and from all accounts, he was the last one to have seen her.
The information that they got was that you had been down there and had recently seen her. Yeah. So obviously they're talking to everybody that's had any contact with her during, a general period of time.
Exactly, yeah. I'm not going to come here being an ass. Listen, right. Ass. Like, look, let's get this done, do what needs to be done, and like you said, just move on.
Yeah. Stephen seemed very comfortable. He was very articulate, and he seemed very confident.
So I'm not going to be like, well, I want a lawyer, damn it. Like, yeah, I'm just going to come in here and do the right thing. And hopefully it gets us closer to finding her. I want my daughter to have her mother. I want her to be found, and hopefully she is okay. Because I feel like I'm living a TV drama right now. Like, oh, the ex-husband comes to town, and all of a sudden the ex-wife goes missing. Great, that's freaking awesome. That's what I want to do. Because that doesn't seem awkward or suspicious to anybody. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, I get it.
It just seemed odd how he phrased that whole portion of his statement to me, an attempt to disarm us by stating the obvious. He talked about how he knew he would be the primary suspect if something went wrong.
I don't want the limelight. I don't
A normal person would perceive that attention, if you will, as limelight. It seemed like it fed his ego, like he got some satisfaction out of it.
The interview was a voluntary, consensual interview. He was kind of giving every sign of, hey, I want to cooperate with you guys fully. But our gut instinct did tell us that something just wasn't right.
You're just making everything a lot easier. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to help. I mean,
Right, and at the end of the day, it's one step closer to putting this crap behind you.
We had been working on this case for days. Some of my detectives without sleep, and there's a big ticking time clock hanging over our head.
Stephen Williams was one of the last to see Trisha Todd alive, and she just vanished into thin air. It's very important to look at the ex-spouse. We didn't know what his true story was yet.
Try to get a timeline of events. He told us he went and picked his daughter Faith up from the babysitter.
There was a point that night, close to midnight, where his daughter Faith started to get fussy. So he sent Trisha a text message.
So I text her, like, hey, Faith is super fussy, you know, I know it's late, but if you're up kind of thing, like, would you mind coming and calming her or whatever? And then she would text back, like, on my way. Awesome. So a few minutes go by, she comes over, she sits with Faith. Faith is happy now. 12:30, 1 o'clock by now.
Probably after midnight.
Yeah. She leaves, Faith is asleep, and then, well, she didn't leave, actually, her car's out of gas. Which, that really frustrates me, because that's her thing. Her car never has gas in it. And she mentioned there's a gas station up the street, and I was like, you know what, gas stations, gas cans, you got any money, I'll just drive my car, I'll go get you a gas can and some gas, no big deal. So she gives me a 20, I leave, the gas station's maybe a half mile down. Get the gas can, pay for it, get 2 gallons of gas, leave for the gas in her car, and then I told her good night, basically. I'll contact you tomorrow, or you can call me or whatever. That's it.
He said Trisha drove off into the night. It was around 2 a.m. His timeline was really good and solid.
The next day, Faith wakes up. I take her to Walmart. And I messaged her that day after getting no reply. Straight to voicemail. I'm like, well, that's annoying. I don't want to stay here all day. Like, I don't like driving at night. So I was like, you know what? I'll just take her to Denise. That's where I picked her up from anyway, and that's who normally watches her.
The babysitter agreed, so he drove over there, dropped his child off, and he left town. If he is innocent, you know, we need him to help us prove that.
Trisha Todd had now been missing for over 48 hours, and we knew that time wasn't on our side. We need to follow up on those leads immediately as to who they talked to, where they were last seen. We believed that Trisha was planning some sort of big, dramatic event where she was going to profess her love for local ventriloquist Brent Vernon. We believed this was going to happen at a local show that he was going to do when he came back to Hobe Sound.
She had told several friends that she had bought this blue dress, and she was talking about how she wanted to go on stage with him and sing a song with him.
In my mind, the most likely place that she would show up if she was just missing on her own will was at this show.
This was like the final hope that she would show up.
We actually went to the show and sort of hung out in the back just to see if anything would happen. We really were scanning everyone who came in.
I sat up on the second tier of the auditorium, waiting for a redhead in a blue dress to show up.
I was staring out the window the entire time, hoping that every car that pulled up might have Trisha Todd in it.
They stayed the whole entire show. Trisha Todd never showed up.
We were all brokenhearted she didn't show up. We were all expecting her to come in.
That's when I was convinced that something else had happened to her.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know.
One of the things that he suggested is it wasn't uncommon for her to take these late night walks.
It would be like 1 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and she'd be like, oh, I wanted to go for a walk. She would say, like, I want to talk with God. But it's like, at 2 in the morning, you're just going to be walking the neighborhood by yourself? Like, You don't even have like some pepper spray. You don't have your phone. Like,
is she that kind of person that's oblivious to that stuff?
She's always had that like God will protect me thing going on. Like nothing will happen to me. I'm a child of God. I'm thinking like that's good to have that kind of faith, but it gets to a point where like let's be reasonable here. Like good people still die every day.
He told us that she did some mission work and would travel to various countries to do that. He mentioned after their divorce was finalized where she jumped in a car, drove down to Key West for several days and didn't tell anyone.
We have to eliminate any possibility that there was foul play. We've not been able to do that. The media became involved, and we began having regular press briefings. And every hour that she didn't come home, the intensity grew, the interest grew.
There was a huge mobilization in Hobe Sound. There was just enormous amounts of people that showed up to search different areas. They were just extremely generous.
Right now, volunteers are out in the woods helping deputies, trying to find any kind of clue, desperately hoping to bring Trisha Todd home safe.
This is not a game. You're dealing with human life. This is when I lie awake in bed, when you get to the critical juncture of an investigation.
I just want to know, like, whether anything, just something, just, I don't know, want to know, any closer to finding her.
If there is, I don't know about it. He was fishing to see what it was that we knew at that time.
But hopefully they find, like, a trace, just something, even if it's like, hey, there's a speck of blood.
It's not something typically you would hear. It just seemed like he knew that there was going to be some physical evidence somewhere. There are times in life where things happen that we wish we could take back. And if this scenario that's involving you is a scenario where you either accidentally, intentionally, I don't know, did something, now's the time to tell us.
I still care about her, I just don't want to be with her.
I wanted to minimize any involvement that he may have had, give him an opportunity to say that it was an accident, that he wasn't a bad person, and try not to paint the picture of him being a murderer.
I can't do anything for Trisha. I don't know anything. I can't help but look. Passing out flyers in North Carolina doesn't no good.
His emotion, that was very strange to me. He seemed very detached from Trisha Todd. Didn't feel like a typical divorce scenario. But we had already locked him in on a statement. We had already examined his cell phone forensically. We'd already processed his vehicle. The car was very clean. We really didn't see much of anything. And at that point in time, he was free to go.
After Raleigh spoke with Stephen Williams, he really gave them the same information he had already given us over the phone.
We were still in the same spot as we were as the day she went missing. We had nothing.
Through the investigation, we had several leads, but nothing really panned out. We did not have many options other than to just keep following up on leads. And that's when we found another suspect, a gentleman named Douglas Purchase. He was a local preacher. What we learned was that Douglas Purchase has had several contacts with Trisha Todd while she was walking on the beach.
With Trisha, you had contact with her, correct?
Yeah, I talked to her.
This was a little bit odd because he was an older gentleman out in the middle of the night. Trisha Todd was much younger than Mr. Purchase.
I felt compelled to speak to her. I said, Lord, if you want me to speak to her, have her stop, ask me before she went in. And she did. She stopped. I asked her the question. I said, do you know the Lord Jesus Christ is your personal Savior? That's the first thing I said to her. She goes, yes.
We had learned that Trisha had confided in Mr. Purchase about problems in her life. Could that have been the last one that she was with?
Let me ask you this, on a personal level. Were you attracted to her?
She's a very attractive girl. Maybe somewhat.
Okay.
maybe there was some sort of romantic interest there, probably one-sided on his behalf, and that made us concerned about his relationship with Trisha, maybe that there was more to it than he was letting us know. He may actually be involved in her disappearance. Once I felt that Trisha was not missing on her own, now we really needed to investigate Douglas Purchase. He was a local preacher. He often was out on the beach talking to people. He told us that he had spoken with Trisha. We couldn't tell immediately if he was the last person to have seen her before she went missing, but we knew that they did have some contact.
She's a very attractive girl.
The way that he talked about Trisha sparked our interest into looking further into him.
I felt compelled to speak to her.
We needed to essentially prove or disprove that Mr. Purchase had something to do with Trisha Todd's disappearance. He agreed.
We're going to proceed. The first test that you're going to take is, it's basically a pseudo test. I want you to lie. Because what I'm doing is the machine now is going to calibrate itself based upon what you're getting ready to do.
Wait a minute. Under no circumstances will I lie for anybody or anything.
I understand.
The Bible is very clear about deceit.
It's your intention here today not to take the test.
That's correct, due to you're asking me to lie.
Douglas Purchase, he started off cooperative. We offered him a polygraph, but for religious purposes, he declined. That's not uncommon. It raises some red flags, so we knew we had to take some further steps with him.
It just led us down another avenue where we had to look deeper and find out who is this guy and what's he about? Could he have done this?
On the night she went missing, you were down at the beach. About 1:30 in the morning.
That was the night she was missing?
What were you doing down there?
There was a turtle laying eggs, and so, all my concentration, everything was on the turtle.
He told us that he could not have been involved because he was on the beach and that there was a sea turtle. We thought this was pretty far-fetched. It was kind of far out there. We needed to look at cameras, security footage, talk to witnesses.
We still had no leads as to where she was. And we all just knew something's really wrong, something happened to her. But as far as Douglas Purchase, we had to either clear him as a suspect or make him a solid suspect. Stephen Williams was very important to look at in this case. He was the ex-husband. But everything Stephen Williams had told us up to that point was matching up.
From his original story, everything that he told us was always confirmed through video. I mean, he's telling us the truth about all of those things.
Our detectives went to North Carolina to speak with Stephen, get his story locked in again. We want to get our own perception of, his demeanor, his body language, get that feel for him and see if he would be cooperative.
The next morning after we arrive in Raleigh, we head over to Stephen Williams' house. We asked him if he'd be willing to come down to the Raleigh Police Department to talk to us. Mr. Williams said he needed to gather some things, but he would cooperate with us and he would come do it.
Stephen was still a suspect in this, so we had to really focus in on him and everything that surrounded him, including his girlfriend.
We decided, let's talk to Stephen's living girlfriend by the name of Laura, just to see if she had any involvement or animosity that we don't know about towards Trisha.
We wanted to learn what she knew about Stephen's whereabouts and what he may have told her. We didn't know, could Laura have been with him, traveling with him? Could she have played a part in this?
I wasn't even there.
Hey, Laura.
Hey.
You never took a trip down to Florida? Never helped him with anything?
I've never met the woman. I've never been to that part of Florida.
Have you ever talked to her on the phone or anything like that?
I talked to her one time and one time only on the phone, and that was over a year and a half ago.
Based on our interviews with family, we knew that Laura had been dating Stephen even before Tricia and Stephen had been divorced. So we knew that there was the potential for some sort of animosity and some bad blood between them. We wanted to follow up and find out more about Laura.
Where you work at, Cowfish?
Yeah.
Okay. On what day? Tuesday?
I was there a double Sunday, Monday night, Tuesday
Not
night.
this week, last week?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have nothing to do with this, and I only came down here to help clear Stephen's name, and now I feel kind of like a suspect.
As I watched Laura, she became defensive as the questions became more aggressive towards her.
We felt like it was important for her to take the polygraph test to help us as being a suspect in the case.
I don't think I want to do a polygraph anymore.
When Laura decided not to take the polygraph test, it raised our suspicion that she might be involved, that she was trying to hide something.
I don't know you. Not saying you're a bad woman, but it's just part of what we have to investigate to eliminate everything.
So even if there's video of me working while he was down there,
Yes.
I would love for her to be found. Like, I mean, we both would love for her to be found. This is a nightmare on both of our accounts.
Is there anything you'd like to add as far as why to try to clear him totally?
You asked me why he wouldn't do it?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, he enjoys being a part-time dad. He enjoys having to just Skype her, 15, 20 minutes a day, going down there when he can.
Right.
Why would he get rid of his ex when now he has to take care of her full-time?
If Stephen did actually commit this crime, he would have to raise Faith. And according to Laura, Stephen didn't want to raise Faith. So we had to question even further, did Stephen have anything to do with this?
He's always been more than willing to try to get her checks and the money and make sure Faith is okay. And
He never complained about that?
Complained about what?
About having to pay child support?
No, he never complained.
Okay.
As far as Laura goes, our investigators would have to look into her alibi and try and verify what she said was true.
While Laura was being interviewed in one room, we had other detectives trying to convince Stephen in the next room over to take a polygraph. This was his chance to clear his name.
Hey, Stephen, we brought up our polygrapher, or polygraph guy. We want to take one for us today?
I actually don't know.
Stephen's initial reaction is he's very nervous.
I'll let them search my home, my car, whatever.
So you won't take one then?
I don't like the idea of polygraph.
Why?
They scare the hell out of me.
Do they really?
Yeah.
He's very concerned about taking the test. He thinks that he's going to look guilty no matter what he says. So the fact that he's nervous does make us concerned that maybe there's more to it, but we don't want to hang everything on that one fact.
No, it just terrifies me. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll let them know.
Taking a polygraph can rule a person in or it can rule a person out. However, every suspect declined to take the polygraph.
Every lead we had to follow up on was just a dead end. It got frustrating.
I wanted to talk to him one-on-one. When I sat in the back seat with Mr. Williams on the way back to his house, I explained to him that he is a subject of great interest in this case. Tomorrow, he's going to have to explain to this national media who's going to be on the front steps of the Air Force Base and explain why he refused to take the polygraph test. I told him that we are here trying to clear his name so that we could concentrate on who actually killed his ex-wife. At that point, he decided that he would do it.
That's what convinced Stephen Williams to come back in, because he's like, if I can beat this polygraph, they'll be done with me and they'll move on.
We really were putting a lot of pressure on getting this polygraph done.
I notice that you're shaking. Not uncommon. Okay? What it can mean is that there's still more issues that you wish to discuss with me before we begin. No. This test is about to begin. Please remain still.
We needed to get some answers. We had no other leads, and we needed to try to find Tricia.
Are you involved in Tricia's disappearance?
really were putting a lot of pressure on getting this polygraph done. We needed to get some answers. We had no other leads, and we needed to try to find Trisha.
This test is about to begin. Please remain still. Are you involved in Trisha's disappearance?
No.
Did you abduct her?
No.
So we got the results from the polygraph, and we couldn't believe what we saw.
The results of the polygraph were ultimately inconclusive.
The polygraph operator could not tell if he was being deceitful. I was beyond frustrated. We couldn't go any further with him.
After spending all that time sending detectives up to Raleigh, we still were no closer to an answer.
So the next day, back in Florida, we had to start back up from square one. But we still have to continue on with the other leads that we're getting, other tips that we're getting.
We're not 100% positive it's just Stephen Williams. What if it's somebody else associated with the family?
With Trisha, you had contact with her.
I felt compelled to speak to her.
One of the tips we had received was about a male named Douglas Purchase. We had found out that on Trisha's walks, very late at night, she had met him on the beach and he was just trying to counsel her.
Mr. Purchase had refused to take a polygraph test. That's a huge red flag.
We actually got permission from him to search both his home and his car. There was nothing found to tie him to anything with Trisha's disappearance.
You were down at the beach.
There was a turtle laying eggs.
We were able to locate some cameras on the beach that night, which did verify Mr. Purchase's alibi that he was actually on the beach that night watching the sea turtles.
The cameras showed he was all by himself. Trisha Todd never met up with him that night.
So far, there has been no sign of the hospice nurse and U.S. Air Force veteran.
Anyone with information about this case is asked to contact the Martin County Sheriff's Office.
Our search efforts never stopped. Deputies and volunteers were out looking for any trace of where she might have gone.
I thought she had a good chance of being alive. I know how tough she is. Of course, as time went on, they got less and less chance. I can remember walking down Bridge Road, going into the woods as far as I could and calling her name and listening very carefully. You get to the point where you're looking for vultures and smells when you realize that she's got to be gone.
So the focus shifted now to finding her body.
During the investigation, we found out Stephen had a live-in girlfriend in North Carolina by the name of Laura.
I don't think I want to do a polygraph anymore.
And she advised me that she was working during the time Trisha disappeared. I got a call from Raleigh Police Department and they advised they went to Laura's place of work. Laura was working during the time Stephen was in Florida.
This would eliminate Laura as being part or a suspect in this investigation. When we'd rule somebody out, we'd have to look at who was left still there, standing. Stephen Williams was always left standing there. If this is our guy, we needed him to tell us about where Trisha is, and we needed him to tell us fast.
While talking to Trisha's family, we had learned some very disturbing facts about Stephen's past and his behavior.
We've been made aware of violence against their small dogs. He strangled a couple.
Stephen did?
Stephen did.
He killed their dogs?
The dogs.
Cruelty towards animals speaks directly to the blackness of someone's heart. If you can injure a helpless dog or a cat, there's something seriously wrong with you.
And so that darker side of Stephen really began to cause us a lot of concern.
We also learned that Stephen Williams was arrested for domestic violence against Trisha Todd.
He was never actually charged and convicted of anything.
Just in talking to her friends and family that she had confided in, this wasn't the only time.
He beat on her. I know he would punch her in the stomach trying to give her a miscarriage when she was pregnant. But whether she thought he would cross the line, I don't know.
I also talked with Stephen Williams' mother, Cheney Smith, and I just wanted to get some background information, mostly about if he had talked about his plans for visiting, and to see if anything was out of the ordinary.
He hated Trish. He had said that he wished Trish would disappear. I said, did you have anything to do with it? He said, no, I ain't have nothing to do with that. I don't believe Stephen.
If your own mother thinks that you're involved, that doesn't look good. She knows him better than we do, so this was something that we were very concerned about.
This is the mother who is supposed to stand up and back her son. It's a huge red flag for us.
As a prosecutor, you hear that a suspect's mother says he did it, you say, holy crap.
We found that first hole in Stephen's story. I talked to the neighbor. Present is Detective Dulac, Detective Oliver, Sergeant Carday. The witness speaks only Thai, is a roommate here. He's going to translate for us.
He drove the white car away.
Stephen had left in the white car, which was Trisha's car. Stephen had never mentioned that he had left in Trisha's car for any reason. And this was the first huge break that we had. We realized that Stephen wasn't telling us the whole truth. This really makes me concerned. If he's not telling us that, is there more that may have happened that he didn't tell us? Well, we knew for a fact that Trisha's car was found at her home in the morning, and it was out of place, which was what started this entire process. We would need to find some sort of evidence. That's when we started pulling a lot of surveillance cameras from the surrounding businesses, and we see that Trisha's car had left. Now we're very concerned. Why did it leave?
In Stephen's previous statements, he had told us that Trisha never left till about 2 a.m., and yet we had her car driving up US 1 at 1 a.m.
One of the theories that we had was that Stephen was the person driving Trisha's car. If he had driven her car to leave the car at her house, he must have walked back home. Now we know what we're looking for. On 3 different cameras, we were able to find a person matching Stephen's description walking from the area of Trisha's residence north up US 1. In the shadowy background, we were able to just barely make out this same person, just those faint little legs walking back into the neighborhood where Stephen was staying at 4:30 in the morning. That's the big aha moment. When I saw that person walking in, I knew it was him. I knew that had put the entire case together. I knew that he had killed Trisha Todd.
During the investigation, my wife and I are taking care of Stephen's daughter. Initially, Stephen was saying that, maybe it'll take me about 6 months to pick up Faith. But it hadn't been about 3 weeks when all of a sudden he just dropped it on us. Hey, I'm coming to get Faith in 4 days.
Stephen had done something to my daughter. There was no way that we wanted Stephen to take the baby back to North Carolina.
We had made contact with Department of Children and Families in Florida and in North Carolina to see if there's anything that we can do to block this from happening. There was nothing that either Florida or North Carolina could do to prevent it.
Probably one of the worst case scenarios, because now we are going to have to legally allow him to come take Faith.
Everything dropped. We knew we had to change our strategy and move quicker. There was no way we were going to let him have Faith.
It forced us to maybe go into hyperdrive because there was no way we were letting him go off with that child.
On May 23rd, we flew to Raleigh. We decided that we needed to go confront Stephen Williams with this new video surveillance footage.
We faced a huge risk going in and talking to him. We had no further evidence. We had nothing else that can put him as the main suspect in this. We were afraid of denial, of not getting any further.
And the neighbor saw you leaving her car. They saw you going back and forth.
We cannot get him to ask for his attorney. That is our main focus. You just move slowly.
You recognize this area here?
That's the entrance to the community, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one way in, one way out.
We knew we couldn't show Stephen the actual footage that we had received because it was just grainy silhouette. You could tell it was a man, but you couldn't tell it was Stephen. We knew if we had shown Stephen, he would say, "You guys are bluffing me." We also knew that the actual images we had would have never held up in court. The strategy we had was not to show him those pictures, but was to show him the locations of where the video cameras were facing.
So we see her pulling in, 12:08.
At the time you said she came over.
Perfect. 1:20, there goes her car, coming out. All right? A couple minutes later, that same car, her car, makes the U-turn right here. Okay?
And back.
We see the car coming back in here. So literally went towards her house, came back. Why is that?
Home and then didn't go home.
I felt he's already going to be deceptive, that he's already going to change the story. Now it's my job to help him change the story.
You know the cameras get footage of the sidewalk all the way up US 1.
And people on foot also. Around 4 in the morning.
4 in the morning. I'd be asleep by then.
That camera at that computer place, it's HD.
We had worked every day for weeks, and we knew we were getting closer and closer. You can literally see his chest pounding up and down, and we knew at that point, we got him. He's going to break.
Trisha Todd was missing. This young woman had disappeared into thin air.
Our investigation had gone on for almost a month now, and we've had no luck in finding where Trisha might have gone.
As we're ruling others out, the focus always shifts back to Trisha Todd's ex-husband, Stephen Williams.
He was the last person to have contact with Trisha.
We had sent out investigators looking for surveillance footage.
We actually found an individual walking at about 4:30 in the morning. We knew that no one else would have followed that path at that time of night.
Everything we had just kept coming back to Stephen. It was all circumstantial at the time, but we wanted him to think we were certain of it and to know that we were done with his lies. We were going to keep working at it. We weren't going to give up until we had her.
I did tell you that that camera at that computer place is HD.
It's you walking.
They confront him with this video evidence we have. Now, in part, that's a bluff. Because the truth of the matter is the video surveillance evidence is not HD, would not have sustained a conviction in this case. So it's nerve-wracking. This is our shot.
You can almost see his heart coming through his chest. He was breathing heavily. He was starting to sweat a little bit. So we knew it was time to come in and attack.
You got a lot going for you. You're good looking, you're young, you got your straight, and you got this crazy, fat crazy ex.
He's a narcissist. I felt I had to come down more to his level and him, thinking that he was a victim in all this. So a strategy I used was degrading Trisha.
She's come after you before. Did she come after you that night? Something happened, and you were just, oh, what do I do now?
No, she never came after me. Nothing.
It's an overwhelming amount of evidence pointing at you. help me continue painting this picture of you. I don't want to portray Stephen as some cold-blooded killer.
At that point, I backed out and let Sergeant Cardet take over the interview, just for a simple fact she could show more compassion than a male talking to another male.
Stephen, it's okay. Okay? You're so tense, you just relax. Okay?
Even touching his shoulder, lying to him, telling him it's going to be okay. I had this hatred inside for him. It was all strategy to sympathize with him.
I just need to know where she's at, Stephen.
I don't know where she is.
Stephen, you know where she's at.
I don't. I really don't.
At that point, he knew he'd been caught, and he knew he had to give us something.
Do you remember taking her car and leaving? Yes or no?
Yes.
At that moment, it felt to me like the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. I was like, whoa, he just admitted that he wasn't telling us the truth.
I need you to work with me. I need to tell him that you were being 100% honest with me.
First time I left,
okay,
she asked me to go back and get her laptop so she could keep working.
We know in this industry that oftentimes confessions are built up. He has been spending days telling us, I don't know what happened. His whole story now has collapsed.
I said, okay, you want Baker here, she's happy, so that you don't have to leave, and she freaks out. I'll go.
Okay.
So I leave.
Makes sense.
The car barely had any gas, and I'm thinking I can make it, but it doesn't look like it. I just turn around and go back. When I came back, she was lying on the floor, and she wasn't very responsive. And I kind of freaked out, because I'm like, oh my God, now she's lying on the floor, she's not responsive, and this looks really bad, because I can't explain it.
For the first time, we actually have Stephen admitting to something happening to Trisha. There was more to this, and we needed to find out what it was.
Relax. You doing okay?
Did I believe that that's how we found her? No. He was just trying to, disconnect himself from how she actually died.
If I divorced you, so I wouldn't have all this drama in my life. And then there's this crazy, and all I'm thinking is, I don't know why you're doing this to me when I've done nothing but try to be a good person to you.
Poor me. She manipulated this situation, did something that we have no idea what it was.
She's breathing, but she's not responding. So I just put her in the car, and I'm just driving and thinking.
But she passed away in that car. It was nothing you did to her. She just passed away. And then you freaked out even more? Is that fair to say? Yes. Did you just lay her down somewhere? Out in the open?
Yes, I just let her lay there. She looked peaceful.
Stephen tells us that he took her body and laid it on the side of the road.
That was a huge break, and we knew we had to keep pressing on.
You're just lying there, and you're breathing shallow. I can't call.
Stephen?
I don't know where the hell I even am.
We had already determined that she had passed while she was in the car. You can't go backwards. Tell me she was shallow breathing.
Shallow. It was really shallow.
It was just so frustrating because we knew he was just lying and lying.
She was fine.
We knew we were just that much closer to cracking this whole thing open.
Here's some water. Here's a thing of whatever.
He told us that he put her on the side of the road and he tossed her arms over her chest and left her cell phone and a bottle of water and a granola bar in case she woke up.
I was hoping she would just snap out of it, just come back.
His story was getting a little extreme and ridiculous.
After I dropped our car off, I just changed. Didn't want anything to do with it.
Where did you change your clothes?
It was right there. Threw the whole bag away.
When the guy said that he threw that bag away, full of clothes, and what was his excuse? I didn't want anything to do with it. Innocent people don't lie. You know what else innocent people don't do? They don't destroy evidence. So I want him to acknowledge it don't look good for me.
I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to come spend some time with my daughter.
Come here.
Sit.
Okay. Here's U.S. 1. Here's Bridge Road. How far out did you go? Did you go past 95?
I have no idea.
Steven?
I don't know what's going on. I just don't know anything.
We tried the Google Earth maps in the interview rooms, and nothing really worked. He's not cooperating with us any further.
I'll be right back.
Sometimes you have to step back and reset. What am I missing here? What are we not getting from him? While I was interviewing Steven in one room, the investigators had Laura in a separate room. Up to this point, Laura still had complete faith in Steven, and she believed everything he had to say. It was her boyfriend, he was her love.
We let Laura know. Steven told us that Trisha fell out and died in the living room. Laura didn't know anything about that.
We also told Laura about Steven killing some of Trisha's animals. Her eyes just lit up in fear. Laura told us that, she recently had a dog that was killed and unexplained death.
Laura's tune was changing, and she started believing Steven had something to do with this.
We thought it was important that Laura come in and talk to Steven.
If he's not telling us exactly what happened, maybe he'll confide in Laura.
I think she wanted answers herself.
Something happened, and there's proof. Can we start the meeting, maybe?
Just don't have any explanation.
Where did you go? Was it an accident?
No, nothing happened. I didn't do anything to her.
It's an overwhelming amount of evidence against you. Steven, you're shaking.
It's because you're trying to tell me I did something that I know I didn't do. And who wouldn't be shaking in this situation?
She just had a look of fear in her eyes, and so Laura got up and she left the interview room.
At that point, he had hit a stopping point. We didn't want to stop. We wanted to push it a little bit further.
We knew we had to find Trisha's body and get him back to Florida.
Are you willing to come back tonight?
The plan was to bring him back down and get him to lead us to the body.
It won't help because I don't know where she is.
The body itself is a huge piece of physical evidence because it tells you how somebody died, which is then instructive on what is the crime. That's big.
I already know it doesn't matter what I do or what I say.
It does matter.
It doesn't matter.
But are you willing to try?
Yes.
Over the past few weeks, Mr. Williams gets caught up in his lies.
He realized now I have to change my story.
He tells us that he comes in the house.
She was lying on the floor, and she wasn't very responsive.
Once he changed his story, we had him.
He said he didn't know what to do, so he loaded her up in his vehicle and drove her out to a wooded area of Hobe Sound.
Now we need to bring him back down and get him to lead us to the body.
It won't help because I don't know where she is.
But are you willing to try?
Yes.
Sergeant Carday called me and said, we're bringing him back down. And I knew they were not going to give up.
At any point, he could have said, no, I want my attorney, I don't want to come. So we were doing our best to get a flight immediately.
We went back to a hotel. Mr. Williams got cleaned up.
He took a shower and was grooming himself. That was very awkward. And he sat and ate with us. We watched TV until our flight. And we just kept explaining to him, you're coming on your own free will on the airplane. It was open seating. He came and sat next to me, and I said, you don't have to come sit next to me. So I wound up getting up a little while later and moving to a different seat, just so we can keep a visual on him. I just remember running through my mind, I said, if only people on this flight knew what kind of person we had sitting amongst us today.
This right side here?
Yeah, that's the neighbor's house.
Okay.
Once we got down there, he took us to the home that he had rented to show us where she was on the floor.
She was in here and she was laying this way.
Was this carpet here?
I believe so. And all I thought was, this is some kind of like trick. This is some kind of like ploy to get back at me or to mess things up for me.
Okay, so you carry her out, you take her to the living room, you try to assess to see what's going on. How long was she on the floor before you decided to check her or do something with her?
I have no idea.
He minimized his involvement, very, very much so, and we allowed him to. We just wanted him to go through the steps with us as to what happened.
Okay. What did you do with her?
I just put her in her car. Just freaked out because I didn't know what I should do at that point.
Okay, so let's walk out to the car. That's all right, you're doing good. You're doing good. It's all right.
It disgusted me to even be in the same room with him, to be breathing the same air as him, but I knew I had to put the act on to get that confession.
I didn't want any part of
this wasn't planned.
Crazy roller coaster that she always does.
He put on such an act. He was trying to act like he was upset, crying. There were no tears, but we just had to keep playing along with him for a little bit and let him think that he's in control of this. So we said the right thing to do is go ahead and take us to where you put her down peacefully.
We are going to go south on US 1.
None of this looks familiar.
Off of this road?
I just saw it pulled off.
Do you want to try that road back there?
None of this looks like anything.
So have we gone too far?
I have no idea. I don't remember any of this.
Stephen, we have to find her.
I don't know where she is.
We worried the whole time that at some point he would say, I want to get out of the car, I'm done.
He had control. He had us just driving in circles. There was such a sense of anger in that car from all the investigators that were sitting in there.
Do you love your daughter?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Okay. You need to give her mother back to her.
But I can't.
Okay, I told you she's going to need some type of stability.
I have no
and you're all she's got.
I don't even know
you
where
are
this
the only
is.
living parent that she has left. You need to show her right. She's going to grow up saying, my dad did something to my mom, and he left her out. Is that what you want your daughter to grow up thinking? Knowing?
Not.
Then take me to her. You have to. Stephen, you know.
Place I don't know. I don't.
The only reason you're not taking me there is because something else happened to her that night.
We were all so exhausted and just had it with him.
We had gotten no closer to finding Trisha. He was no longer in control because what he forgets is the whole time he's explaining this, he has told us that he left Faith at the house by herself. We placed him under arrest for the child endangerment. Now, my detectives are running the show.
We were done with his lies, and this wasn't going to stop until we got something more out of him.
We brought Stephen back to the sheriff's office. And at that point, Sergeant Carday was going to interview him, and she was tired of it.
You at no point try to do CPR, call 911. You don't do any of that. You go and put her in her car.
Yes, so I could take her home is what I thought. I can just take her home and she can be out of my hair.
But you didn't. You wanted her out of your hair, and you got it.
Because I didn't.
You got it, and I'm going to prove it.
I can't even tell you the things I really wanted to say to him or do to him. I had to keep it professional. It was coming up for time for a reset. We had to go back to the drawing table.
There really is no emotion in there. There really is nothing in there for her, huh?
What are you talking about? I'm
You
going
wanted
off
her
of what
gone.
you're saying. I wanted her to not be dead in my home. I wanted whatever this was to not be affecting me the way it was.
Our team, we were exhausted. We had already been awake for probably about 50 plus hours at that point. We knew it was time to let the guys that were well rested get a try.
Litigators generally are kind of egotistical. We, for a living, ask questions. And so I frequently will be sitting out watching a law enforcement officer conduct an interview and be saying, ask this, ask this. Tom Backall. We haven't met yet. What's your name?
Stephen Williams.
When I entered that room, I had to go in there for myself to give it one shot. I never identified myself as a prosecutor, but just as somebody else. I was exceedingly concerned that we didn't have enough. People who lie because they're covering something up.
Tom Backall has a very aggressive style. He went in there guns blazing. Typically, as a detective, you want to take a little bit of a softer approach because we need people to open up to us, to be okay with admitting to what they did. We need this person to be cooperative because ultimately all he has to say is that he wants his lawyer. We're done.
The first thing I need you to get me over is you could tell them this initial version of events and leave out this whole, as you said multiple times, stupid laptop thing.
Because it was stupid and it didn't make sense.
First thing Tom Backall did when he came in was just zeroed in on inconsistency with going to get Trisha's laptop from her home and bring it back to his house.
And when something doesn't make sense, it's generally not true. That doesn't look good. If I got up and I sat over there and you sat here, what would you think of me telling you that? Bullshit, right?
Yeah.
I was hoping that if I went in and I pointed out how ridiculous his story would sound to a jury, he'd change it again. You come back and Trisha's laying on the floor with an injury. You know, 911, boom, cops are there, ambulance, she gets treatment. And you did not do that, right? Do you have a conscience?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
And as she's laying in the back of the car, your conscience never kicked in and said, maybe she's still alive. Maybe I should take this opportunity to save a human life. Not just a human, but the mother of my child.
He wouldn't give Stephen any time to think of any lies. He went right for the throat.
So you're insinuating because I didn't think that I don't have a conscience?
No, I'm not insinuating. I'm saying it. It made me very uneasy looking at him. He had that vacant kind of nobody's here, empty eyes.
You make it seem like I had this whole grand I didn't have any plan.
No,
I didn't know anything.
In that moment, we were terrified he was going to ask for a lawyer and just be done.
This was the most poorly executed murder in history.
I didn't murder her.
Okay? When I walked out of that room, I don't feel we are any better position than where we had been when I walked into that room. I still don't know what I could prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
After a month of work and sending detectives to Raleigh twice, we still did not have enough to charge Stephen Williams with murder. Everybody knew that he was involved, but we couldn't prove that he killed her. And we were afraid that if we didn't get some sort of confession that we would never get justice for Trisha. We still just didn't have enough to move forward. We needed him to talk to us more and to actually change his story one more time.
Stephen will talk to certain types of personalities. Mr. Backall was not one of them. So we decided to introduce another new fresh face, somebody that might be able to talk to Mr. Williams a little bit more softly, where he wouldn't shut down.
They discussed who we were going to send in there. I've only been in the detective bureau for a month. This is the first time that I would have really been in the room talking to a homicide suspect in a major investigation. And so I raised my hand. I said, I haven't talked to him yet, and I know the case.
All the big dogs have taken their shot. The assistant state attorney, the lead detective, the lead sergeant. Our thought was, all right, give the new guy a shot.
You waste your time. I don't think this guy's going to give it up. But they're going to send in a relief pitcher. I'm Dan.
Stepping into the room, I had a flood of emotions. I knew this was a huge deal. This was going to be terrifying and important, and I knew I needed to focus. There was a lot of pressure. I knew everyone was watching.
When Detective Dulek had gone in, at that point we had known that Stephen had disposed of her body.
Improper disposal of a human body is not a serious crime. We want to charge him with murder, and we need to get there.
We knew he was our guy. There was no question.
This was really our last chance. Once I entered, I focused completely on Stephen and really just at the job at hand. I needed to get a confession from Stephen Williams to be able to charge him with Trisha's death.
Hey Steve, how you doing? Good. I'm Dan.
When Detective Dulek had gotten, at that point we had known that Stephen had disposed of her body.
Improper disposal of a human body is not a serious crime. We want to charge him with murder, and we need to get there.
What I want to do is try to set the stage so that you can actually tell the narrative about what actually happened, which is not that you planned all this. You know, it's maybe you guys got in an argument. Maybe it was over the computer, maybe it was over the gas, maybe.
My approach was less confrontational because I didn't want to just come at him, but I also didn't want him to feel like he could just get away with it.
Because sit here and tell you that she attacked me, that's just another different story that you're just going to be like, well, that's 5 different stories he's telling now. And that doesn't help either. So what do you want me to tell you? What do you want me to tell you, Dave?
I want you to tell me the truth.
I'm telling you, I didn't hurt this woman.
It is a bit of a psychological approach. We needed to try to side with him, maybe empathize, try to build some sort of rapport. I want to try to get in Stephen's head to make him feel like it's okay to admit to what he did.
Here's the thing about the stories, okay? Every time you tell us some version of what happened, it gets closer to the truth.
Detective Dulek just kept on him and kept on him and kept on him. I named him my hammer.
The truth is never anywhere near as bad as what people will believe if you let them come up with their own story.
No one believes I hated her. I never hated her. I didn't.
Tell me that story. Tell me what happened. I think you're a good guy. You're a family man. You're trying to do the best that you can. Okay? I know you were there. I want to give you the opportunity to tell me what happened. I know you did, but you've got to clear this up. This is not something you can carry around.
At that point, Stephen broke down. I doubted that he was actually crying for any remorse. I really felt like he was just putting on another show. But I also knew that for him to break down, even if it was pretend, it was a step in the right direction. And he went into his final version of the story.
So yeah, she came over and she was with Faith, and then she just started talking about nonsense. And she's just going on and on about now I owe her more money and back child support and I'm just sitting here like, then I'll fix it. I'll send you another. I'll do something, but I don't have the money now. And then she just gets on my face about it. It just all went bad. It just so fast. She just went from 0 to 100, and then I just moved her away, and then she flipped. And that's when she freaking fell, and I'm like, oh shit. I asked her if she was okay. It was like a weird sound. She didn't say anything, though. And then all I'm thinking is, great, now I've pushed her, and she's hurt her head, and I'm done. I'm just...
That single moment, he says, yes, I was involved. Yes, I did this. I was beside myself.
You could have heard a pin drop. It was like, whoa, we've got it.
Sorry.
When Stephen gave him that confession, it was just such a sense of relief for all of us.
All this case comes to this one sentence or two. I pushed her and she fell. And that was really the culmination of all that work.
That I never wanted to hurt. Never.
The fact that we can prove there was animosity between them, the fact that we can prove that he tried to cover up what had happened, the fact that he had lied to us so many times, all of those things put together, now with this confession of his involvement with her death, we now had enough to charge him with murder.
Tonight we are following major developments in the murder of Trisha Todd.
Stephen Williams arrested and charged with the murder of his estranged wife, Trisha Todd.
The facts supported a second-degree murder charge. We couldn't prove that he had intended to do this. The next step is to find her body, because we know that once we find her body, we'll be able to prove more about what happened to her. Unfortunately, he had an attorney who then showed up at the sheriff's office, and at that point we couldn't question him any further. The next plan is to think of a way to get him to plea, or at least to cooperate in giving us the location of the body. And before we even had a chance to present that kind of option, the defense attorney came to us and said that Stephen wanted to make a plea deal with us.
Taking this plea deal was our only real chance at that point of finding Tricia. The Todds agreed. They wouldn't necessarily be happy with it, but they were going to do what they had to do to get their loved one a proper burial.
I didn't think she had died from bumping her head. I wanted him to produce her body. I wanted the autopsy to be able to tell us everything that Stephen had done to Tricia.
The man who killed his local mother learns his fate. Stephen Williams was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the death of Tricia Todd.
Mr. Williams had accepted the plea deal to the 35 years. The judge sentenced him, and we wanted to find her body.
The defense had indicated a willingness to take us to Tricia's remains in exchange for a plea.
Theoretically, he could get out in his 60s. We did what we needed to do to bring this case to closure. His attorney came up to me and said, "Can I talk to you outside?"
Stephen's assigned public defender had a very concerned look on his face.
And he says, "Mike, she's buried in a Rubbermaid Tupperware container full of muriatic acid. How could this be? And how big is this container?" And he said, "It's about 3 foot by 2 foot." And I said, "How did he get her in there?" And he said he chopped her up.
We were all sick to our stomach, and it was probably not a dry eye in that hallway. Something that grotesque, that evil, we didn't think he was capable of that.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, what have we done? I went back into the courtroom, had them shackle Mr. Williams up, and escorted him out to my truck. And he just pointed to the direction that I needed to go.
Mike, start slowing down. Yeah. We're here. You can just park here.
He knew all along exactly where she was. When we get there, I need you to put this, place it where she's at, so we have some type of marker so we don't forget around, okay?
He went on a beeline directly to that body.
Up until maybe a day before this, that whole area had been underwater. This is all like swampland. And we had a big rain right after Tricia went missing. There was no way that we would have found her.
About how far down are we going?
It's not much off the surface, 2.5 feet.
We had a hazmat team on site who started the digging, and they located the container. They removed the container, which was full of liquid.
And they pulled the lid off that Tupperware. And so I saw Trish in there. And I knew at that time I made a deal with the devil. And that's something I will live with forever. Because he deserves so much more. And it's my job to give it to him. But,
I was in shock. It was almost, I almost had a dead feeling, like I don't know what to think.
We felt like we were in a movie. It was just so surreal. He was just a cold-blooded killer. We all felt a sense of defeat. How do I explain that to her mother and father?
Sergeant Carday called me as soon as they found it because she didn't want me to hear it in the media, and they were all over the place. I just felt paralyzed for a while. I couldn't move. And then I thought, you know what? My daughter doesn't need that body anymore anyway. She is in heaven with a glorified body. And that old body is just like a dress she'd take to the thrift store. And that comforted me.
All the tools that he had used to dismember her, he threw in the canal. So those items were recovered.
What this guy did in preparation for the cold-blooded execution of the mother of his daughter is incomprehensible. It was clearly, in my mind, had to be premeditated, planned murder.
I thought that never in my lifetime would I have ever come across such an evil person. And my heart just broke for her family.
If we're going to get full justice, this guy can never walk free again. And there is one way to get final justice in this case.
I think God gave Tricia some inklings of what might happen to her. Because she told me, I feel like I have 1 foot in the eternal and 1 foot on earth. And God just might want me to step both feet in the eternal. I miss her all the time. When I have something I want to tell her and she's not there, you know.
Mr. Williams goes to prison for 35 years for second-degree murder. There is one way to get final justice in this case, and it is through the federal government. I was in contact with the United States Air Force. They can concurrently prosecute Mr. Williams because he was in their employ. They could charge him tomorrow.
Well, I hope that he's found guilty in the military court and receives additional years in prison.
It's my enduring hope that they will do that, because if we're going to get full justice, this guy can never walk free again.
The Air Force investigators worked very closely with us on this case from the very beginning, and they had to get a closing statement from Stephen Williams. So 2 of their investigators went to the prison where Stephen Williams was located, and Detective Oliver and Dulac went to listen in on that interview.
In that conversation, Stephen detailed everything that he did.
He had ordered the saws, the container, a couple months earlier. He had purchased the muriatic acid before he left North Carolina to come down here.
When he actually called Tricia over, his only purpose was to get her over there to kill her.
When she came to the door, he hit her over the head and knocked her out. When she woke up, he was trying to ask her for her email password to get into her accounts, to put out these fake emails that she was leaving on a missionary trip.
She was going to say her goodbyes through email and say, I'm leaving, don't come looking for me. That's how he was going to cover up this murder. However, she started screaming very, very loud. And he overreacted to that and hit her in the head again so hard, he knew that she wasn't going to wake up again. From there, he actually put her in a trash bag, took her out to the car, and left in her car. The reason for that is that he knew that if they ever found trace evidence in her car, he could explain that. Unfortunately, he realized the car was out of gas. So this was the crucial thing that threw a hiccup in his entire plan. So he had to drive back to the house, got in his car, and drove to get gas. And at that point, he made up this whole story about how she had run out of gas. And that's why he went and got her a gas can. That made perfect sense, and that's why it was so difficult for us to unravel that at that point.
He drove her out to Hungry Land Reserve.
He had gone out to dig the hole the day before he picked up Faith. He had taken a chainsaw and he completely dismembered her taken out her teeth and her fingertips so that she wouldn't have anything identifying, that would come back to her.
And the whole time he's dressed in this rain gear with these goggles on, and I can't even imagine what it would look like. This person on the side of the road, deep in this wilderness, and he's just had to be covered from head to toe in blood, holding a chainsaw, dismembering this person who's the mother of his child. When he's talking about this, it's like very matter of fact. It doesn't even register to him that it would be strange or odd to be doing this. After he finished dismembering her, he put her in the tub, put all the acid in the tub. He threw all the tools in the river right there.
One thing he did say was he lost her teeth. As he pulled them out, he went to throw them in a canal that was nearby infested with very large alligators, knowing that we probably wouldn't go in there. And we found some teeth in the Shell Rock Road, which were later identified as human teeth, and ultimately Trisha Todd's teeth. He took her clothes and burned them in a nearby fire pit. He also took all the clothes that he was wearing that night, burned them in a fire pit,
drove the car back to her place and walked up the street in the middle of the night, just like we saw him on the video.
It was the ultimate premeditated murder. He had thought about this, he had calculated it, he had planned every bit of it out.
OSI asked Stephen why he did it. He said that Trisha kept on disrespecting him. He wanted full custody of his daughter and financial reasons.
I would absolutely describe Stephen Williams as a monster. There's no remorse, not a shred of remorse after he's caught and confronted by what he's done. I mean, there's nothing but evil in him.
We stayed in a hotel room with him. We drove around with him. We'd eat with him. You could walk by him on the street. He was a very well-dressed, educated, spoke very well. You'd never, ever know he was a killer, a murderer. We deal with him all the time, but we found a whole different breed in him.
I remember every homicide I've ever prosecuted, but this one will stand out. This guy is why I got into prosecution. This is the reason why I do what I do.
It seemed like a lifetime that we'd been investigating this. It was a huge relief to be able to close this, because there was several moments throughout this whole process where we were very concerned that this would never be solved.
Trisha Todd's disappearance happened without a trace. We had no eyewitnesses. We had no physical evidence, and we had no confession at first. And for our detectives, within 30 days, to solve a case like that, get a conviction, recover the remains, and bring closure to the family is nothing short of a miracle.
That month, that's all we lived, breathed, was Trisha Todd. It was our duty to bring her home. The confession definitely was key, and we were able to bring justice to her family.
The ultimate victim in this whole case is Faith. She didn't ask for any of this. Her mother, who she loved dearly and cared for, was taken away from her. And then her father, all of a sudden, he's gone too. And we keep close tabs on her, making sure she's doing good.
We love the little girl. We were privileged to have her enter our family. We sought to adopt her. It was about a 5-month process, so we're raising her as our own.
Trisha lives on through her little daughter, Faith. She has that same spirit of cheerfulness and happiness and joyfulness. And we are so honored and blessed by God that God left us something of Trisha.
One thing kind of special is when we came out of her memorial service, there was a big double rainbow. And then my son said, "Oh, there's a song about that. It's If I Die Young, Send My Mom a Rainbow." So I had to cry about that a while.
For For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.
Mr. Aguilar is not in his room.
My father told me something happened to Christian, we have to go.
The latest on the search for the missing UF student.
I called the lieutenant. I said, there's something really serious going on here. I need more detectives.
After I did break up with him, he was very possessive, so I was staying away from him.
People are so on edge, so scared.
I'm not going to come back to Miami unless I go with my son.
They decided to stop and pick up a hitchhiker.
We don't know if he was alive or dead. We're definitely racing against the clock.
My son was going to the University of Florida in Gainesville. Christian got to his dream to become a Gator. I never saw my son so happy. He was glowing.
I actually started dating Christian at the end of July. He's the kind of person you meet and like you just want to be friends with. Very like laid back, very funny. He's just really, really sweet. Around noon, I had just got into class. Christian messaged me, letting me know, hey, I'm gonna meet up with Pedro. Me and Christian and Pedro went to high school together. I left campus maybe around 4 o'clock. I start messaging him and there's no reply. And it's already really unlike him. He had been really fast to text. He had been really fast to answer. It gets later and later. I'm calling both Pedro and Christian because I knew they were together. Neither of them were answering. It was really strange. I was like, they must be someplace with no signal. Morning rolls around, at 6 a.m. I'm calling Christian's roommate, and the guy's like, Christian never showed up. And that's when I start to get really nervous. I call Christian's family.
I received a phone call at 9 o'clock saying that Christian didn't sleep in his room. Erica was really concerned about it. My name is Carlos Aguilar, and I'm the parent of Christian Aguilar. He's a student over at the university. His girlfriend has been trying to contact him since yesterday, and he's not answering. He normally responds to his girlfriend right away, and if she's so concerned about it, we are concerned right now. This is not his normal behavior, and I'm wondering if you guys can help us. Not receiving a phone call from Christian was for us very disturbing. The last time that I spoke to him was at 3:42 p.m. Yesterday he sent me a text message. That's the last time that I heard from him. That was an agreement that we had with him when he came over here and chose UF, that the communication has to be, really clear.
103, see if you can make 1025 with a Christian Aguilar. He is a Hispanic male, about 5'3" to 5'5".
I've been with the University of Florida Police Department on and off for about 20 years. We do get a lot of missing person reports, especially at the beginning of a semester when we get a lot of new students that are coming in. It's their first time away from home. Mom and dad are worried about them. Most of those cases will go to their residence hall and then find that they're there, and they just get so busy with all their other activities, especially being in a new environment and being on their own. Mom and dad kind of take a back seat, and they just haven't been in contact with them.
Mr. Aguilar is not in his room. His belongings are there. There's just no one home.
I'm kind of like checking my phone every 5 minutes. I was really nervous, so I call Pedro. He finally answers. He didn't know where he was. I'm like, we're going to the police station to report Christian missing.
Pedro Bravo and Erica Freeman were all in our front lobby. With Erica Freeman, it was very obvious that she had been crying.
When we first got to the University Police Station, they took Pedro to the back because he was the last person that saw Christian.
See if we can locate Christian and figure out where he may have been. Please. How long have you known Christian?
4 years.
My whole philosophy and strategy moving into that interview was to try to say, We're in this together. You came to us for help. Let us help you. Tell me what we can do to help you locate your friend.
Does Christian have a girlfriend here?
Yes. The girl at the front.
What's her name?
Erica Freeman.
That's his current girlfriend?
Yes.
How long have they been dating?
I don't know, I guess 3 weeks to a month.
How long has he known her?
He's known her for about same time as me, 4 years.
So you all went to high school together?
We all went to high school together, yeah.
Pedro Bravo, he looked extremely tired. His face was drawn, his eyes were red.
Tell me a little bit about where you were with Christian yesterday.
The reason I wanted to talk to him is because I've been going through a very rough time, because I've been contemplating suicide, and I almost attempted at one point.
What prompted you to start having these thoughts recently?
Recently, college, moving out.
You take classes here at UF?
No, I'm a sad face student.
As a detective, as an interviewer, sometimes I just let them talk.
Like, I remember of where I wanted to be when I was little, like what university I wanted to study at when I was little. And then I'm at this point and I'm not where I want to be.
A lot of times that's probably the most revealing part of the interview.
I wanted to talk to Christian ever since I got here because I know he'd be one of the people that would really help me out.
Pedro was very depressed because he didn't reach UF. That was his goal as well as Christian. My son was trying to help him out. Christian liked to help people a lot. He got this ability of making you feel important when you were talking to him. He's a very giving person.
So I called him up and he agreed to meet me Thursday at 2. We got in my car and we went to Zaxby's Chicken. And then he's like, oh, yeah, can we pull into the Best Buy? And then we went into the Best Buy and we found the new Kanye West CD and he got it.
At this point, it was really just an exchange of information. So I felt more like, okay, I'll just see where this goes.
I felt like I screwed up my future. So we're driving around and we're talking about how I want to kill myself and how my reasoning behind it, like why I want to kill myself. And he's like, you shouldn't do it. And at that point, we saw a hitchhiker, just a random guy. And I looked at him and he looked at me and he was like, oh, why not? Like, it's nothing bad. It's 2 of us against 1 person if anything happens.
Pedro tells me that they decided to stop and pick up a hitchhiker.
Tell me about this hitchhiker that you guys picked up.
All I remember because he was very, very tall. He had like a big white beard.
Generally, violent crimes are extremely low in this area. But being a college town, the city of Gainesville has a very transient aspect to it.
And I remember today, I was a little bit nervous because when I checked my car to see if there was anything missing, because I had a bunch of my art supplies in the back. And I looked today, and my duct tape is missing.
You dropped this hitchhiker off north of 441 at a storage facility?
He's like, just drop me off right over there. I pull in there, he gets off, and we leave the guy. And then after that, we jump back on the same thing of me talking about me committing suicide. And I'm like, you don't know what I'm going through. He got frustrated and angry at me, and he's like, stop the car, I want to get off.
So about what time was it you dropped Christian off?
Around 6 or 7. I was angry at him because I'm like, fine, you don't want to, like in my mind, I'm like, fine, you don't want to help me? Don't help me. So I stopped the car and I let him get off and I drove away. I really regret it now. I wish I could have kept driving and be like, no, screw you. I don't care. You're not going to get off. And then that's the last I heard of him.
Pedro said Christian demands to be let out of the car. Pedro left him standing on the side of the road with this homeless hitchhiker just a few blocks away that he had just dropped off, and now Christian was missing.
Are you worried that he won't come back?
I'm worried about him because I don't know where he is. And it's been so long, and someone doesn't just vanish for this long and doesn't show any sign of like being somewhere. At this point, something's happened.
I was in my AP English class, and I hear that somebody came to pick me up early from school. And I go outside, and my father's there. He's kind of lost for words. Then he just told me, something happened to Christian, we have to go. We picked up my mom, and we just booked it straight to Gainesville. At this point, all I know is that Pedro was one of the last people Christian saw.
Where do you think Christian is right now?
I don't know. But honestly, I just really hope he's lost.
I interviewed Pedro at the University of Florida campus. Pedro explained that he and Christian got into a heated argument and that Christian demanded to be let out of the car, and Pedro was so upset that he pulled off to the side of the road and told him to get out. So about what time was it you dropped Christian off?
Around 6 or 7.
I said, is it possible that maybe Christian left something in your vehicle? And would you mind if I have another officer just go out and take a quick look while we continue talking? And Pedro readily volunteered. How about Erica? When was the last time you talked to her?
Last time, it was yesterday.
Have you and Erica ever dated?
Yes, we have.
How long ago?
Through high school for 2 years.
Initially, when I talked to Pedro, he just said, hey, that's Christian's girlfriend. He never mentioned that there was this kind of relationship between all three of them.
When did you guys break it off?
Near the beginning of this year.
I kind of wanted to touch on that and see if it struck a nerve. Your ex-girlfriend is now dating your friend. So how do you feel about Christian and Erica dating?
I'm okay with him. I know he's a good guy, and I know she deserves the best. I know
he was very elusive, gave the typical, I hope they're both very happy together answers. And you don't have a problem with them dating?
No, I don't have a problem with them dating.
I never thought of this guy as a suspect, but yet the expressions on his face, the distant look in his eyes, it was just something that just didn't fit.
When I was driving to Gainesville, we called Pedro.
Hello?
My parents are in this state of panic. There wasn't that much information that we knew. All we knew is something had happened.
Yo tengo el mismo sentido porque él es uno de mis mejores amigos.
Cualquier cosa que estés nos reclamas, ¿ok?
Sí, igual, si tú sabes algo me dices, por favor.
I was desperate to get to Gainesville.
It was truly critical. We find out what really happened.
Chris, where are you? Are we okay?
I felt like I wasn't going to get any more additional information out of Pedro, and I was really, truly at a loss. So I called Detective Randy Roberts over at Gainesville Police Department and explained to him that we were investigating a missing person. We made this decision that, okay, we're going to have to get Gainesville Police Department in here.
How you doing?
Detective Roberts puts people very much at ease.
Are you Pedro?
Yes, I'm Pedro.
And when he comes in and he sits down and he starts talking to you, you feel like you're talking to someone you can trust, that you can confide in.
We usually work these types of cases, missing persons. So
I really hope he's not missing for long.
Me too. So
when in reality, Randy's reading everything that's going on with your body language, with your eye movements, with your hand movements.
I need to just find out, when have you seen Christian?
Yesterday.
There's definitely a sense of urgency when somebody goes missing because something has happened to them. We need to find them as soon as possible, get them returned.
Me and him both see this hitchhiker on the side of the road, and we decided why not to pick him up.
You listen to what they have to say, and then you create your strategies as you go. What's he look like?
He was very tall. He had very big hands.
He gave me an age, height, weight, hair color, even that he was standing on the backs of his shoes. What was Christian wearing? He'd spent hours with him and couldn't tell me basically what color shirt he was wearing. What kind of shoes was he wearing?
Dark color.
Did you make any stops from the time that you dropped him off? When y'all were mad at each other, did you stop anywhere?
Yes, I stopped to get something to eat.
Where?
At the McDonald's.
About what time now?
Stayed around 6-ish, something like that. Then I went home. Around 8, something like that. I took 4 sleeping pills, and I got really drowsy. Next thing I know, I woke up half-dazed at 1 just to see how my phone's doing.
As far as you know, we're just sitting there talking. But we've got behind the scenes a lot of people doing a lot of stuff trying to develop information in a short period of time.
Remember, our evidence custodian went out and did a cursory search of the vehicle just to get clues. Either Pedro's telling us the truth, or maybe there's something that might indicate where Christian might be. And there were some things that came up during their initial observation of the vehicle.
There's a receipt in your car from McDonald's at 1-something in the morning this morning.
The timestamp that was on that McDonald's receipt was totally contradictory to Pedro's timeline. It was almost 5 hours after the time that he said he was at home in bed. Why the discrepancy in the timeline, unless there's more to the story?
People who don't have anything to hide and don't have any reason to hide it usually remember if they get up at 1:30 in the morning from a dead sleep and go down to McDonald's and get something to eat.
I might have had like the midnight munchies, just like been really hungry and gone out, but I don't.
Where he's lying to me, you had to have evidence to contradict his story. That McDonald's receipt, that was something pertinent. Those little places where you order your food has a little camera. Well, am I going to see your face at McDonald's at 1-something in the morning?
Probably.
Probably? Would you say definitely I'll see your face?
You will definitely see my face.
Now I'm getting to the point where I'm going, something's happened. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of looking at you like you did something to him.
You're right, I can't keep everything from you, and I have to tell you one thing. Okay. Like, in the scuffle with Chris, it wasn't just really an argument. You're right, I can't keep everything from you, and I have to tell you one thing.
Okay.
Like, in the scuffle with Chris, it wasn't just really an argument.
Pedro Bravo, after I asked about the receipt from McDonald's, he changed his story just a little bit.
At one point, I made the comment about Erica, and he got angry at that.
The biggest thing that jumped out at me is that the guy that's missing was dating your ex-girlfriend, and the last person that he was with was you.
But then he came back with, maybe you should just kill yourself. And that's when I turned around and I hit him in the face. Hard enough, at least, to bruise myself.
Was he losing him?
Oh, then it was just pain.
How many times did you hit him?
Just once.
Sitting there going, something's happened to Christian. I excused myself. I picked up the phone. I called the lieutenant. I said, there's something really serious going on here. I need more detectives. We're definitely racing against the clock because we don't know what's happened to Christian. Pedro, what really happened to Christian?
I already told you. I punched him in the face. I told him to get out.
I know, but can you see how I'm having a hard time believing everything when nobody can find Christian?
I know.
You're the last person who saw him,
yes.
And you punched him in the face.
Yes,
and put him out of your vehicle. People in general do want to tell the truth, but they feel like it's going to incriminate them, so they'll give you pieces because they want to tell you. You have to ask it in the right way. Sometimes things happen in the heat of the moment that you wouldn't normally do.
There's things you'd wish you could change, but...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I can also understand that if someone is messing around with the girl that I was in love with in high school, he's going to UF, where you should be going. I can see that there's some problems in there. I got to get them to justify their behavior, give them an out, lead them where I want them to go. If you got in a fight with somebody or you did something in the heat of the moment that wasn't intentional, be honest about it, because if it comes out later, it's going to make you look like you're guilty of first-degree murder. You planned it, you picked him up, you took him out. I know you're not that type of person. Everything with Pedro Bravo had to be a justification. I told him that I know you're not that type of person, and he bid on that.
I'm going to be honest, I wanted to hurt him, like, really hurt him for doing that. It wasn't just me pushing him out of the car. It was like, pushed him out of the car, then I got out of the car. Then I kept punching him. I was just there and I was wailing on him. And I kept going until I could see that he was okay, but he couldn't move anymore. And then I got in my car and left.
Pedro changing his story from it was a heated argument to now it was a rather engaged physical fight.
I know Pedro is not telling the truth about what he knows. and I have an indication that he's done something bad to Christian. And I said, I know, and you know, Christian's not coming back. He ain't coming back. You know he's not coming back. And he nodded his head. And that's when I knew for sure he's either hurt him or killed him.
Will I still be able to go home with my parents tonight
I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that you can go home tonight, okay?
Randy Roberts, he knew he had someone who was saying that he had hurt someone else. So you're going to let him go? That doesn't seem like a good choice.
I'm concerned about you wanting to hurt yourself.
I can't do that. My parents are here, so I really can't do that.
I know that. We didn't have enough to arrest him.
At that point, the evidence we had kind of started to collect was nothing that tied him directly to Christian going missing.
You tell me that you're thinking about hurting yourself. I can't just let you go home. I might have to have you Baker acted and taken down for an examination, psychological examination, make sure you're not going to hurt yourself.
The Baker Act in Florida is an involuntary civil commitment for someone who intends to harm themselves or others. Under Florida law, Randy was able to put Pedro Bravo in a mental health facility for a short period of time, which gave him the opportunity to gather more evidence to prove Pedro committed a crime.
I got detectives doing research, doing cell phone search. I got forensic investigators coming. We drafted search warrants for Pedro Bravo's apartment and Pedro's SUV. I've got detectives out pulling surveillance video.
We have continued coverage tonight with the latest on the search for the missing UF student.
Going into the woods, searching, but we haven't found anything.
As a father, you really don't think. The only thing that you are doing is searching, and the adrenaline is let's find Christian.
There was a massive effort to find Christian Aguilar. This effort was really spearheaded by his family and his friends.
Family, friends, and police have been searching almost non-stop for Christian Aguilar, who went missing on Thursday. But the UF freshman's whereabouts are still a mystery.
I know I was terrified at that moment. I was scared, I was angry. I'm just imagining all these possible outcomes or situations that Christian might have been in.
They brought in the Game and Fish officers, Florida Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, helicopters, the Department of Corrections brought in bloodhounds. His parents just desperately hoped Chris was still alive, injured, out in the woods somewhere.
I understand that you and Pedro were dating all through high school.
Yes, it was going to be 3 years in October 9th.
So about 3 years, yeah.
While they're trying to find Christian, we're interviewing Erica, Christian's girlfriend.
After I did break up with him, he was very possessive. Like, it was kind of like, I don't care what you're feeling right now. Like, I want to be with you. So I was staying away from him.
With Pedro, I definitely just started feeling like less and less valued in the relationship. So I break up with Pedro at the end of senior year. When we broke up, Pedro was heavily sobbing. I was like, I don't want to cause all this pain to somebody, but I need to explain to them, like, I'm very unhappy. A few months later, I start dating Christian, and we were together all the time.
I know Pedro didn't take the breakup that well, so no one was supposed to know about us dating, and it was a fragile thing.
My main reason for not telling Pedro about me and Christian was strictly concerned for his mental health. But I guess he knew.
So Pedro shows up here sometime in August.
I turn around, he's like right there, and like I was kind of like in shock.
Pedro got a good scholarship from FIU in Miami, so I was just very confused when I was like, what is he doing here?
Normal people don't just pick up all their stuff and go up to Gainesville for a girl. It's very like soap opera like.
Pedro Bravo was in love with Erica Freeman, but once he discovered that she was dating Christian, Pedro just couldn't get past it. He was going to try to get his girlfriend back.
After hearing more and more from police officers, and after hearing more and more that his story had changed multiple times, I started becoming more and more suspicious of Pedro.
We don't know what's happened to Christian. We don't know if he was alive or dead. You know, we're definitely racing against the clock.
We don't know what's happened to Christian. We need to find him. Like, we were very crunched for time, because how many days can somebody survive
in the woods? How many days can somebody survive, hurt?
I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I'm not going to come back to Miami unless I go with my son. That's it. We didn't care about bugs. We didn't think about snakes. We didn't think about anything. Because I need to get to him as soon as possible.
During the course of my interview with Pedro, he said he'd had some ideas of committing suicide.
You were with Christian yesterday?
The reason I went to talk to him is because I've been going through a very rough time, because I've been contemplating suicide, and I almost attempted at one point.
Pedro Bravo ends up being taken to a mental health facility because he said he's suicidal. He wasn't free to leave, but he wasn't under arrest either. He was essentially being detained.
The Baker Act was coming to the point where Pedro is going to be released. We're still working on building a case against Pedro. So the fact that Pedro actually said that he left Christian Aguilar barely breathing, it was time now to arrest him for the charge of failure to render aid to an injured person.
Am I on TV yet? You are on TV, you're famous.
They got random people to go searching.
Yeah, they have a group online. It has like 3,000 people.
Where are they looking for them, though?
They're searching the woods, and they have a candlelight vigil.
Trust me, I've been inside here praying, too.
I am a digital forensic specialist. I concentrate on mobile devices, and I did an extraction of Pedro Bravo's phone. Anytime somebody uses a phone, we're able to build a picture of not only where they were, but where they went, and sometimes even the route that they used to get there.
The Gainesville Police Department will use that information that they gained from Matt Geckel, and they will find every video of every store where Pedro's phone went.
We were ultimately able to find some logs that were kept on the iPhone that contradicted what Pedro was telling us. There was about a 5-hour period from about 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. where Pedro's phone disappeared from the network completely. This is when he told us that his phone had died. We were able to show through the log that that wasn't true, that his phone actually had a charge and that he had just placed it in airplane mode. When Pedro's phone came back on the network, about 1:03 in the morning, it actually put him almost in the same area that he was in when he left. It was actually near a McDonald's where we ultimately discovered a car wash that he had visited.
We found video from a car wash, and he was there for 12 minutes washing his vehicle, which is very unusual to wash your vehicle not only at that time, but also for that long. The only thing he didn't wash was the wheel wells. We found dirt and soil underneath the wheel wells that indicated he'd been out in the woods. So samples of all those were taken. Inside Pedro's vehicle, we found blood that paint had been poured over top of. And Pedro had the paint on his fingers when I interviewed him. We drafted search warrants for Pedro Bravo's apartment. We found some receipts for items that were very incriminating, like a shovel. He lived in an apartment. He didn't do any maintenance. He wasn't working at anywhere that used shovels.
One of the things we found on Pedro's phone was that he had used the flashlight app for an excessive period of time. He had used it for over 40 minutes.
It's a long time to use your flashlight app on your phone, unless you're burying a body in the woods.
All the evidence pointed to GPD is not working a missing persons case, they're working a homicide.
State attorney asked me, if you had a body right now, would you charge him with murder? And I said, yes. And he said, you have enough probable cause for that? And I said, yes. A lot of evidence was obtained. He did give admissions without a total confession. And he gave us enough to be able to make a case. The state attorney said, then charge him.
The police had told us it's no longer a search and rescue, it's now going to be a search and recovery. It was just very devastating. It was very, soul crushing. Eventually, I go to, the first officer I see, and I'm like, I want to go talk to him. We're in so much pain. Like, there's got to be something I can do, please. And we had fears we're never going to find his body. I wanted Pedro to tell us where the body was.
We need you to help us with everything you know.
You don't know this is eating me up.
No. You're not allowed to complain. You made the choice. And I'm sad. And I can't sleep. I can't eat.
The only thing I'm in here for is to talk about Christian. Like, where is he? Where did you put him? What's going on? He just keeps referring the conversation to himself.
I'm so sorry. It's so hard on the outside.
You say you love me. Please. I need help. I need your help. Please. But I really, really want to find Christian. I really, really want to find him.
You know what, Erica? I honestly thought you were everything in this world. I honestly thought that. But you know what? I lied to myself.
Like, just came to a realization that, like, the person that I thought I knew, that I dated, and that who I was friends with, and who I, shared laughs with, and all these things, that person did not exist. Maybe that person never existed.
I was a liar to myself.
Randy felt strongly that it was a murder, but he did not know that it was a murder. We didn't have a body. It's harder to prosecute a case without a body. You have to clearly establish that the person is dead. That's an element of the offense.
When they told me that they 90% believed that my son was dead, that was the worst day of my life. I started crying. I broke. My family didn't want to believe it, and I said, well, we don't have to believe right now. The only thing that we have to do is keep our faith, keep looking, because without his remains, it's not going to be no justice. This guy is going to walk away if we don't find Christian's remains.
Mr. Bravo had changed his story several times. There was a lot of reason to believe he was guilty. Randy Roberts has the receipt from McDonald's that shows that he's lied about his whereabouts. There's body fluid on the back seat of Pedro Bravo's car. Mr. Bravo had purchased a shovel with cash, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, why would Pedro Bravo be washing mud off his car? And on the night that this happened, he used his flashlight app for 43 minutes. So Randy Roberts felt strongly that it was a murder.
We've arrested Pedro Bravo for murder, but we still can't find Christian. We know that we're not going to find him alive. The family needs closure, and they're still conducting searches every day.
The crime that you saw in there, I told them we have to start thinking the worst.
We charged Pedro Bravo and we went to the grand jury without a body. It's harder to prosecute a case without a body, and Pedro Bravo, he chose to continue to protest his innocence and say that he wasn't guilty of anything.
They're trying to frame me right now. Funny.
This guy planned this one, and he's not telling the entire truth.
When they executed a search warrant of Pedro's bedroom, the Gainesville Police Department located his journal, and he had the vast majority of what he intended to do in that journal. Pedro was embarking on this journey in his mind to get Erica back.
This was a young man that had gone off the deep end, became obsessed, and allowed his obsession to control him.
Approximately 5 days before Chris went missing, Mr. Bravo goes to Walmart and Lowe's and buys the items that he will use to murder Chris. This was a planned and plotted murder.
I got a telephone call. The Levy County Sheriff's Office had located a body at a hunt camp, and that they believed it was going to be Christian.
I walked up about the same time and I said, "Is that a human head?"
We had forensic anthropologists from the University of Florida and their team come up. I had brought Christian's dental work to the anthropologists, and he made a positive identification while they were still at the scene.
Christian's body was severely decomposed. He was bound with duct tape at his ankles, at his hands, at his mouth, and around his neck.
It looked like a human skull face down. The only person I could think of was a boy missing from the University of Florida.
People that we care about are buried face up. And our enemies are buried face down. And Chris was face down when Pedro left. It was pretty sad.
So my family all completely destroyed. With something that we never imagined. That somebody would hurt my son like that. Never. Pedro wanted Christian to be removed so he can stay with Erica. But I think they had involved more emotions than that. It was envy. It was he being not able to fulfill his dreams in the university with the girl, and showing Christian as a projection of his dream being fulfilled. I think he's just pure evil.
Yo te recomiendo una cosa, no converses con nadie. Yo sé, ya me voy a quedar callado. La misma persona que está puesto al lado tuyo es la persona que después puede o sea reutilizada en tu contra.
Pedro Bravo is in jail with a bunch of people who want to get out of jail. And they're listening very intently to everything he says. And if it's information that they believe may help them in their case, they're definitely calling us.
My lawyer needs to come and talk to me because I got some shit I want to say.
We received information from an inmate whose name is Michelangelo. Michelangelo said that Pedro Bravo had told him where the shovel he used to bury Christian was located. Now, from our perspective, you have to understand that Michelangelo has a significant criminal history. This information is very suspect, if not highly unlikely.
We've been looking for this shovel for weeks. So we took the information, went out to the apartment complex, and started looking where we were told it was at. It was actually found. When we got it, we have our crime scene person pick it up, and soil samples that were still adhered to the shovel, they actually matched up with the location where Christian was found, and to the soil that was found underneath the wheel wells.
Once that shovel has been found, Michelangelo, he was telling the truth. He couldn't not be. It was a certainty that he would testify.
Welcome back. The trial of Pedro Bravo got underway in Gainesville this morning.
We're not charging him with second-degree murder. Second-degree murder is a killing that's done out of a sudden flash of intense violence. This was a first-degree murder. This was a planned and plotted murder, and we knew we had to prove that.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you testify the truth, the whole truth, nothing but yourself? Yes.
Did we have a strong suspicion as to how Christian was killed? We did. But what Michelangelo gave us was a detailed account of that death that was even more horrifying than what we had thought it would have been.
He parked over, on the side of the parking lot away from Walmart. He got out like he had to find something in the back seat, and he told me that, when he was back there, he, basically put a moving strap around the kid's neck and braced himself against the seat, putting his body weight against it, and his nose started bleeding. He said that he remembers watching the radio, the clock on the radio, and said it took like 13 minutes for the kid to, I guess, die.
13 minutes. It's a terrible way to die.
He said he kept the strap on his, his neck, but that he had duct taped his hands and his mouth up. And while he was riding, he said that, the kid Chris was making a sound like,
Michelangelo's testimony, it's hard to know really how the jury received it. He gives a description of how Pedro Bravo kills Christian Aguilar, but we can't prove that. We don't have any reason to believe that the cause of death was a fight. We have every reason to believe that he strangled him.
All rise for the jury. We'll be adjourned until tomorrow morning, trial at 9.
The jury's going to deliberation. There's like this sense of panic. You hear about like people who don't get charged or convicted. To the public, it seems like, why wouldn't you convict this person? It doesn't make sense. What did the jurors see that you didn't? We're just worried. We didn't know what to expect. They call you back into the courtroom to hear the final verdict, and your heart's racing, your stomach drops. It was just intense anxiety to hear what they were going to say.
Pedro admitted Christian Aguilar had suffered probably life-ending injuries and that he had abandoned him. We certainly argued to the jury that this was a confession.
We, the jury, finds as follows as the defendant, Pedro Andres Bravo. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Mr. Bravo was convicted as charged on every count: first-degree murder, kidnapping, the unlawful transportation of human remains, tampering with evidence, lying to a police officer in a missing persons investigation, and false report of a crime. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, and in addition to that, he was sentenced to 46 additional years in state prison.
When they came with the verdict and they announced it, it was a relief that, justice was served. We cried. We didn't enjoy or celebrate nothing. Nobody won. I'm not taking my son back home. And, Pedro's family is also destroyed.
Carlos and Claudia have more strength than anybody I've ever seen. I couldn't imagine being a parent having to go through what they did.
The police, the investigators, the prosecutor, they were phenomenal. And those people are in my heart. And always I will be, grateful for their friendship, for their support. I know there is a lot of good people, and you cannot let one individual destroy all of us.
Christian definitely set this kind of path, and he carried himself in such a way that I kind of wanted to also follow. I decided to go to the University of Florida. I felt like the only way to truly understand what he saw in the school was just to come here, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I cannot be more blessed than being the father of Christian and Alexander. For me, both of them are the most precious gift given to me by God. My favorite thing about Christian is his smile, his heart. He will give you a hug, give you a kiss without you asking. And I miss that.
I tend to always remember those really happy moments where we're talking about the future and we're holding each other and we're eating a bunch of donuts. Very simple, just felt so exciting being with him. I try to think of how pure that love was and how rare that love is, and I think that's how I'm gonna carry him in my heart, because I know there's a lot of pain in the story and there's a lot of grief in the story, but love is what kept me going in all of that, and love is what keeps me going. Love is his legacy.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.